Coming up next. Stay tuned to learn more about the state of blockchain education at major universities all around the world. REIMAGINE 2020.
Hey everybody, we're back with another education segment of the REIMAGINE 2020 Virtual Blockchain Conference. I'm Ashley Meredith, Head of Education at Mousebelt Blockchain Accelerator, and today I'm here with Maggie Love. She's from Web3 Cloud, and she is the founder of a newly announced education initiative called SheFi. Going to be helping women dive into the DeFi space. Really excited to have this conversation, something that I really care about. So thanks for joining us, Maggie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. It's sunny here in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm learning while I'm sheltering in place that whenever the sun is out, I'm happier. So maybe I'm learning I'm a bit of a houseplant as well.
We all are houseplants, right? We need water and sunlight more than we pay attention to. So why don't we just dive right in? A lot of the interviews that we've been doing, we know we have a large student community watching. And it's been really interesting to ask people, you know, how did you get into blockchain, even before blockchain, your journey? For what I hear from students is that when they hear from industry people like yourself, it really makes blockchain tangible for them. So for anyone, any students who might be listening, who might be thinking about going into blockchain, I mean, especially women, right? Tell us your story.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I started off in consulting at IBM, and then after I had kind of gotten tired of the travel and that lifestyle, I decided to move over into IBM Watson. So I was doing product strategy for IBM Watson in financial services. And at that time, I was living in Chicago, flying to New York all the time. And then I had fully transitioned to New York, and we were building out about 7 Watson and financial services products, focusing on optimizing banking and like back-end office processes with AI and a bunch of other, you know, buzzwordy tech terms, which was really a lot of fun because I got to kind of grow a business unit with my boss. So while I was doing that, I was invited to join some strategic IBM meetings about, you know, how are we really going to focus on financial services with IBM? And in one of those meetings was this man named John Wolport, who is now also at Consensus. We like to joke that he followed me there. And he kept talking about this blockchain thing. And he was so passionate about it. And I was excited. So I decided to go pick up a book at Barnes & Noble about blockchain. This was about 2016. And I just started reading about it. And I immediately had to be a part of it. So I was doing some stuff with Watson and blockchain, and I had realized through all of my research that the Ethereum space was really exciting. And, you know, if I was going to be doing blockchain in New York, it should be with Consensus. And so I left corporate America for a couple of reasons, but one of them was really to join that revolution. And everybody I talked to at Consensus had so much passion, was ready to reimagine the future, and was willing to give a chance on me. So I come from a non-technical background. Like I said, more business consulting, business strategy. I got used to working with product teams and understanding requirements and backlogs and technical aspects of building things. But I wouldn't say that I was, you know, at the time, somebody who would like design tokens or this economics or, you know, or code. So in 2017, so it's almost my 3 years, I was able to join Consensus, and I fell in love with the opportunity and the technology and everybody I met working on it. And I just became a voracious reader, everything about Ethereum, every idea coming out. I believe at the time, and this might've been 2016 too, Laura Shin had just started Unchained, and she had done one of her podcasts on like the stock exchanges or something. And I had listened to that podcast like every morning, so many days in a row, because I really wanted to understand this technology. And its power to reimagine economies, reimagine value transfer, business processes. And so I would say that really there was something inside of me from the moment I heard about it. I knew I had to kind of listen to what that was. And the more I read about it and got educated and did online research about who was doing what and where I should be, and then, through consensus, got a lot of opportunities to work with teams on building ventures and working with enterprise clients, and especially co-founding Web3 Cloud and whatnot. I've been here since 2016, 2017, and that just, there's been so much learning and so much opportunity. So what I'm trying to say is just learn everything you can about it. It doesn't matter where you're starting today. If your first job offer isn't exactly what you think it's going to be, keep reading, keep listening to the tech, keep finding out who's doing what in this space, what excites you. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, find ways to get interviews at the companies you really want to be at, and just be open. So, I think IBM was very safe, was a very safe job, right? Big company, and Consensus was this startup out in Bushwick. And so just taking those risks and surrounding yourself by the right people. Luckily, Consensus was this amazing talent magnet for people building products, thinking about the ways we even build organizations differently. So, getting educated, surrounding yourself by the right people, taking risks. I said yes to every type of project. I never thought any project was below me or to this or to that for me. I just dug my heels in and do what I had to do. And I think, all of that really turned into being a part of this movement and getting all the opportunities and spotting them and making something out of them that I have. So it's, probably easier if you are technical, but if you're not, that doesn't mean you can't be involved. There's a lot of things that we need to do to still scale this technology and to get it into the hands of many people. And that requires a lot of talent. So don't be shying away because you might not have come out of college with the exact background. Keep finding those things. And if blockchain you're passionate about, find your way to get involved.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. You kind of naturally just, started giving advice. That probably would have been my next question. What would you tell these students? You touched on two things that I love the most about working in blockchain, one of which is the passion of the people who are involved. I talk to students all day, every day, and they're all just so excited about the potentials of this technology. It's one of those rare things that has a message behind it, right? So people can rally behind, and it's all really fun to work with people who are so passionate. And the other thing is how much opportunity there is for people who are not technical, or for anybody to get involved in this. But especially I come from humanities. So before I started the university program over at Mousebelt, I was teaching philosophy at Portland State, and I've been in the academy, teaching, tutoring for 12 plus years. But realizing that the role that I have is someone who is really well versed in universities and working with students and working with administrators and understanding all these different stakeholders, and they have different concerns and navigating all of that for my team, who some of them, to be honest, never went to college. A lot of people in tech, you're a coding genius and you drop out of school to start your startup. So I have that to bring to the team. So it's just exciting to see how much, we've got what you would expect, 60% data scientists, computer scientists, and engineering students, but the rest of those students that are in our community, we do surveys and learn a lot about them and what's going on at their schools, is communications people, marketing people, law, even some philosophy students. So that's been really cool to see. And what I've been telling students is that because there's so much that needs to be done in the space, that you can get you can get a job in a lot of different kinds of places in the nonprofit sector because of that domain expertise. So if you are the one person who knows a lot about blockchain, all of these enterprise companies, some nonprofits, governments, they're all creating blockchain research arms, right? Or they're work groups to try to figure out if they're going to use it or not. Even if it's really in the early stage, a lot of these companies are starting to need more people who understand this technology. And you don't have to be technical to understand it to a point where you can communicate that as a consultant or whatever. A lot of these student groups have been creating consulting startups, and businesses are looking to them because they're the ones really plugged into this information. And it's just one of those things, right? Emerging technology, younger people are going to be interested in it. So with all this opportunity, we also need to make sure that that it's an opportunity for everyone, right? That those opportunities are accessible to everyone. And, you know, just the fact of the matter is that it's a tech industry, which is already male dominated. It's something that became popular among certain kinds of communities online where women may not have been welcome. And, you know, something like 2% of cryptocurrency owners are women. So you're on the front lines now. You've decided to take up this arm, and I love the name. It's so perfect, SheFi, to teach women about DeFi. So tell us about that project. How did it get started, and what's the mission?
Yeah, so how it got started is a sort of a funny story. And I think that as we're entering this new paradigm of not connecting with people as much, I hope we find a way to model that in the virtual world, because it actually, it came from a few places. So I've been in the space, I've been watching it grow. I've always been in tech and more male dominated industries. And, you know, the value is that everybody can participate in these economies, and you don't need a certain amount of wealth to, you know, either purchase an investable asset or get onboarded into a new economy. And so, you know, I saw that and I believed it, and that's what I'm here for. I just think with the state of the technology, and you know, it still needs to really grow, that like until I saw DeFi, and even though there was a lot of really interesting other projects, that was a space that I was like, yes, this can finally fulfill that mission of onboarding a lot of people into these economies in a way that, you know, we all understand. I just was really finally excited that I was watching this happen. So I had been watching it, you know, grow over the past year and whatnot, and some of the newer platforms coming out. And I was actually talking to a friend, Corbin Page. He's in the Codify team at Consensus. And he had mentioned that a group of people had gotten together for the NCAA bracket. So if you don't know how that works, everyone pays, let's say, $20 to a pool, and then a bunch of basketball games are played, and you kind of bet on who's going to win the overall game. And with that pooled money, while the games were ongoing, so while, you know, game 1, game 2, game 3, whatever, they had put that money in Compound just to see what had happened. And since they had kind of all agreed, like this was a pool of money that they were giving away to a winner anyway, it didn't, you know, matter what happened to it. And they were getting like 7% interest on the entire pool. And I was like, wow, like I knew women weren't involved, and it's not because they weren't invited. It's just like basketball tends to be a more male dominated space. So I was like, that's a cool idea. And the wheels in my head just started turning. And I was like, what could I do to recreate that, those similar sentiments, like pooling money together, that you're okay if something happens to it because it's not your own ether that you're hodling. And at the same time, how do I get something for women to rally around? So I'm not a big TV watcher myself. So The Bachelor, Bachelorette, all these kind of like other game TV shows are not global. And I wanted to make sure it was a cause that was global. And you know, not everybody watches, so it wouldn't have as much engagement. And I'm a big runner, so I was just running a lot, and that's when I do my best thinking. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if we pooled money together for a charity? And what if that money then was put in different DeFi protocols that we all learn about together, and then we can actually discuss like what is happening to the money while it's sitting in that project and whatnot. And then, you know, on another one, I had the name SheFi, and I was like, it's here, I have it. So really it came, and I think that's like, there's so much serendipity and talking to people and meeting with people, and we weren't even meeting to talk about the NCAA bracket, right? We're just friends and we were catching up. And so it's truly just like, I'm a big believer that inspiration can come from anywhere and any person and anything. So just like being on the lookout. In the back of my head, I knew I wanted to do more with DeFi myself personally. I saw it growing. I saw a lack of women on teams, a lack of women participating. And, it's not that, I don't think it's something to necessarily like be upset about. It's truly an opportunity then to say, this is all happening. We're at the beginning of these new economies. How can I get more women in? And then just that conversation really, like, it all made sense to me. It was like, how can we get women to play with this money, pool together money that they're okay playing with, and then hopefully by, doing it as a group together, and then the funds going to charity, which everyone immediately was like, I can get on board with that. They can go home and then, potentially use their own funds in a project they like, or they can, start telling other people. So that's how it came together. I was watching the ecosystem. I saw an opportunity there. I had a random conversation. I thought on it and thought on it, and it sort of all came together, and started asking some people for, initial feedback. And they were like, yes, this sounds like a great idea. So, and then just doing it, this is right now, I don't want to probably have another question about this, but I just kind of like had the idea, started sharing it, kind of voiced it, and certain people I work with are like, you need to do this, you need to do this. So partially having the idea and then voicing the idea is what really makes you make the idea happen, right? So putting yourself out there in this way is somewhat newer for me in the crypto space. So just also knowing that when you have something, if you do put the passion into it, and the brain power and like the muscle, you can make it happen. So that's kind of how it came together. It was knowing the idea, having a serendipitous moment, and then actually having the confidence to bring it to life.
Absolutely. I'm a big advocate for like speaking your plans, because then you're made accountable, right? And people can't know, like, of course you don't want to be the person who's like, oh, I'm going to run a marathon, and then you never run a marathon. Those people are annoying. But like, speaking about things, your announcement, someone tagged me on Twitter and said, Ashley, I think you'd like this. And I was like, I love this. And now we're here like interviewing. So yeah, definitely great advice for any students out there watching. First comes the idea, then just put it out there. You never know what'll happen. And I think speaking on your plans, other people can hold you accountable. You're more likely to follow through if there's expectation, right? But also just this kind of manifesting of like putting it out there in the world so that people like myself can find you, and all of that. So really love what you're doing. I really love the idea of doing it for charity. And you talked about what can make people more comfortable with playing around with money, because there's a lot of societal things that might go into like risk tolerance among women. And that's why it's so important for someone who has those societal understandings, or even just that experience of being a woman, to lead these kind of initiatives, because particular communities have like particular struggles. For example, I just did another interview with the founder of Black People in Cryptocurrency, and for some reason, the Black community was just getting an influx of multi-level marketing crypto scams. So this was like a unique thing that was happening in her community. So she founded Black People in Cryptocurrency to because she knew that community and she could serve them best. So similarly with SheFi, I love that. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about barriers to entry in the space, or what you're hoping this will do, what SheFi will do for women who are new to the space.
Yes. So while I was thinking about this idea, I also did some research. There's not as much research in crypto. Actually, CoinGecko just came out with a report around it, but I wanted to see if my assumptions about women in the traditional financial space, or I should say current financial space, were actually not as confident using their money. I live in New York, so I think it's a financial hub. And whether my female friends are in finance, in tech, in business, in whatever industry they're in teaching, and we span a lot of variety of careers, and everybody wants to know, like, what can I be doing to better manage my wealth? And so that was my first inkling, that we still haven't figured out personal finance for women necessarily, and that risk tolerance. And so I always wanted to check first. So I actually did some online research, and I found a report by Allianz Financial. And in this report, it said over half of the women say they wish they were more confident in their financial decision making. And also a quarter of the women that engaged in the study said they're in a financial profession. And that's actually down 30% from 2016. And finally, women in 2019, so this is even pre-pandemic, are saying they feel less financially secure compared to 2016. So that's definitely confirmed my assumption that we still need to do more to get women confident with engaging in finance, taking a little risk appetite in, and getting educated. So in one of my presentations, I did this Maleficent picture, and I said we don't want old fi, new fi to look like old fi, right? So like mirror, mirror on the wall. If it's just you staring back, if DeFi is just staring back and it looks like the same profile as old fi, like we haven't done enough. And also, as I was mentioning, I was just seeing that these lending projects, especially, like you don't even necessarily have to borrow from or trade or do these other more complex financial decisions, but you can like lend your crypto and get 8% or 4% or 2%. And if you go on my Chase Bank today, it's like 0.01%. So, you know, this opportunity is now. And so how can we get women started? And then since you're not, you know, betting on stocks, you know, a Tesla stock costs what? Maybe $100. I haven't looked recently, but it's expensive. Or even spending $40 on maybe a lesser stock is a big chunk of money. And with crypto, you can put $10 to $15 in. So I see this opportunity for this new financial system to kind of help with those financial risks and reservations that women have. But then, you know, we have to actually do the engagement part and the experimentation part. We can't just put out education. We actually need to get people playing with these projects. So I kind of tested that assumption, saw those numbers, and then CoinGecko of recent has just put out a report that said 89% of the users who've heard of DeFi are male and between 20 and 39. So that was right after my SheFi announcement. So people are starting to pay attention to the fact that this DeFi space isn't as diverse, and I'm not benefiting from having diverse participants in it. So, you know, one of the challenges or barriers is the fact that like this personal finance and the traditional finance, that world that we all operate in, already has women feeling less secure about the choices they're making and having less knowledge. That's kind of one barrier. And then when you want to bring them into this new financial space, because you don't need to have as much capital, you don't need accreditation, you can, you know, you need an internet connection and a phone. You don't need a bank account. You don't need KYC. Like you see all this opening of the financial access, but then I'm reading these articles, and it's like CDP and APY, and you know, for us crypto literate people, we're like, oh yeah, collateralized debt position. But what is that even? You know, what is a stable coin? You know, what is a DAI? What is a USDC? What is a Tether? What is a GUSD? So we have our own language barriers and our own finance barriers in crypto, and it's not to anybody's fault. You know, I think the crypto space is very focused on their own audience, which is the crypto literate. And I just saw that if even someone like me who hasn't been in the space as long can immediately read an article and say, there's 5 words in here that I've never heard of, or I've never been explained to me. And it's supposed to be a 101 on that project or on the initiative on that, you know, whether it's a stable coin or a derivative or whatever it is, like that's another problem as well. So women are already feeling less able to make traditional financial decisions. They have this, I believe we have an unprecedented opportunity to bring them into this space because, like I mentioned, no KYC, no banks, etc. But then we have a whole other new financial language barrier or technological barrier. You know, all the things that crypto bring, that's hard. So how do we actually make content accessible? How do we make these words? Many of them are actually traditional financial words. How do we break them down? How do we put, you know, the different things we're seeing in crypto, how do we put them into things that people know? Like for a stable coin, I want to have a stable currency that I can go use anywhere at the store, or, you know, when I'm purchasing this, like put them into terms that people understand. Oh, that's why I'd use a stable coin, because I want to buy my groceries or whatnot. So just, you know, really continuing to make the content accessible to not just women, but everyone who hasn't spent as much time in the financial world or the crypto world. So I think the barriers, you know, are just already the risk appetites and what some of these surveys are saying, as well as not then being able to understand all this new crypto lingo and decentralized finance. And then one last barrier is like, we actually need the money to play with these projects. So like I said, there's a lot of reservations about going into your own pockets. I've been holding ETH now for X amount of years, and you're going to tell me to convert it into a stable coin on this beta website for swapping tokens, and then put it in this other website put it in this lending protocol when their essentially cousin, a different lending protocol, had an attack. Like, my own money? Absolutely not. And so we women, and I'm not here to talk about every single barrier that women have in general when it comes to finance, but we have less money, we might have less time because we're the caretakers. There's like a lot of those things as well. So how do we actually get women funds to start playing with those projects in a low risk way so they can be the empowered, confident people, break down that barrier to use their own funds? So I think it's like general financial barriers and understanding. Then you're piling the whole crypto lingo and technology knowledge on top of that. And then you're not giving them the money to actually go and play with these projects in a low risk way, because I doubt we're many of the whales out there. So kind of those three barriers are things that I wanted to figure out a way to overcome with the SheFi initiative.
Yeah, so you touched on something that I think everyone in the crypto space should really take to heart, is that we have this problem with like not enough thought going into the UX and UI of these products. They're not easy to use, they're not easy to understand. So I would just tell everyone listening, if you're creating content for your customers, like, realize your customers aren't just the crypto literate. If someone who's been working in this space for 3+ years is reading your 101 and there's words in there that they've never heard, like, you're probably doing it wrong. So
Right.
definitely having a lot of these kinds of conversations with people that we've been interviewing for Reimagine 2020 is that, yeah, we do need to focus on education, plain English, better user interfaces and design, just to make that on-ramp shorter. So to wrap this up, maybe tell us a little bit more about how this platform is actually going to work, and where people can find you to get the latest updates of the launch.
Yeah, so SheFi, I announced it about maybe a month or so ago. And so it's still in, kind of like, in a way, testing. So what I have going on right now is a cohort of women inside of Consensus. And, we're going through this together. So I'm putting together the materials, I'm hosting the Zoom sessions, I'm getting their feedback on what they'd like to see next. They're opening my eyes to different risks, different fee things that we, may need to cover in a different topic. And then, we pool together funds, and we have a SheFi wallet, and then we demo. So we do a week of learning. So we learn about the project, we learn about all the terms associated with it, whether those are crypto terms or traditional financial terms, to everybody comfortable. We walk through what the steps on the platform look like. So it's very learn intensive. And then the next session we do. So we, mirror those steps that I had went through in the session, and we invite more conversation. Stop. We look at gas prices. We gripe about that. And so really right now, I'm a big fan of the crawl, walk, run. So I really, and even before SheFi was launched, I actually was running these pilots within Consensus, because I wanted to make sure before I announced this that there was a need, there was excitement, there was positive feedback. And so this really awesome group of women right now in Consensus are helping me build out what the future of this looks like by participating and by, being a part of that community. So, my philosophy is like, if we have the education plus the experimentation and the community, that is really how we scale something of meaning. And really, I want to touch on the community part, because I could just publish a bunch of content out there and I could just hope people were listening, hope people were reading. And there is a lot of content, but the benefit of community is hearing the questions and the feedback and the struggles, and having this space for women to come together and kind of laugh about our blockchain mishaps or our finance mishaps, and then helping each other, helping me answering questions. And so like this DeFi journey is something that is collective, and I think something that is empowering, and something there is sticky there to coming and seeing people a couple of times a month to learn together and to have this community. And so there's a few things going on then. So I'm running that pilot within Consensus. I've launched SheFi publicly, which has allowed me to start actually communicating. So if people go to www.shefi.org, they will be able to sign up for a newsletter, and the newsletter title is SheFi Shorts. And so in a couple weeks, we'll be sending out a survey that kind of gets the understanding of where people are today who sign up for the newsletter, because that could be different from the people who are actually in the cohort. So I'll start writing content based on that. So maybe we start with MetaMask and Argent and wallets, and before we get into stable coins, and maybe we have sections for beginners, and then say like if you're more advanced, you can go here. So really understanding like what we want to communicate by understanding who we're communicating to and where they're at. So cohort, starting this newsletter that won't bog down your inbox weekly, but will come every now and then. And also I'll be running a column in Decrypt, which is a crypto publication called What the Fi is DeFi. And so we'll be breaking down some of these topics as well. So while I'm starting to put out content, I'll be really thinking about how do we scale community? How do we scale the educational part? How do we scale the experimentation part? And I hope to, in the later half of this year, have more information on that. And while starting to make the education accessible, thinking about the ways we actually get the community to be broadened beyond Consensus. So that is like where we're at now. And like I said, if you want to find out more, www.shefi.org, sign up for the newsletter. We'll be sharing the content that I publish in the Decrypt. So if you're reading Decrypt, you'll find it. If you're reading SheFi Shorts, you'll find it. And then, we have Twitter and a bunch of we're starting to look at other social media outlets in order to kind of start engaging a wide variety of audiences beyond crypto.
Oh yeah, crypto Twitter is huge. So wait, what's your Twitter handle?
Okay, so the Twitter handle is SHE, and then it's __FI. That is what I could grab for SheFi. There was already some SheFis out there by the time I
two underscores, everybody.
2 underscores. So there you can find it. And that is purely just to publish DeFi content and retweet and actually share some of our experiences. Today, we were trying to do some lending via InstantApp, and the gas fee was $2.13. So kind of like if you're also just curious some of the more candid experiences the group is having, I'm also going to share that, because I think the more we share that feedback with the ecosystem and we get more people's eyes on it, the more we'll continue to improve DeFi. The more we improve DeFi, make it more accessible, and people would actually want to do a transaction because the fees aren't $2.13, we'll continue to, broaden the number of people participating.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we can help build your community. Send everybody over to shefi.org and she2_fi on Twitter. Thanks again, Maggie, for hopping on and sharing your experiences. I'm really looking forward to what comes out of these surveys. I think that's the best way to start. That's how I started the university program. We talked to like 35 different professors and students all over the US just to see like, what do you care about, right? What do you know? And that's just the best way to start any project. Go out and find out what do you care about, what do you know, and build your program around the community that comes to you. So really looking forward to everything you're doing with SheFi. Thanks again for joining Reimagine 2020.
Thank you.
You're tuned in to Reimagine 2020. Stay tuned to learn more about the state-of-the-art in blockchain education and technological development all around the world. Reimagine 2020.
Fortune, I just got the news. I can be a millionaire too. Check the OP, what did he do? Gas in his bag so to go to the moon. Spent half an eighth, I got 1,000,000 coins like the real McCoy. You know I feel that joy, cause if it goes to a buck I won't believe my luck. And now 10 on my Lambos for me and my friends. Butterfly doors but I'm already in dock. Trump is like Biff from my squad on the block. Jamming with a hold alive. Chat rooms we scroll at night. Bitcoin ether been told twice. Now I hold my ish like it's mold divide. Going to the stars cause it's only right. Read the white paper I was sold inside. Now I steal my shit coins cause I'm overhyped. We can't get take the pressure. Cashing out for you was tether. My craft ship shape as she sails through stormy weather. With pleasure, come with me on this endeavor. I will be smoking fat joints on Italian leather. Crypto fam, welcome to Lamboland. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance. Crypto fam, welcome to Lamboland. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance. This goes out to my crypto squad and the crypto gods. Blockchain clearing that fiscal clog. Rolling through town like the Frisco fog. Push the button, bought some coins. Now push the button, start my whip. Used to push my feet through the tenderloin. Now I'm pushing this spaceship. Some thought it was a bubble. Now vision doubled. Wishing they had taken the trouble. Hardware wallets, private keys, no more paper and duffels. Bank staying puzzle. Now I'm going for hikes. Have a mountain sex. My returns just hit 10,000x. Used to be humble. Now I proudly flex. Should I fly to Dubai or Saudi next? And I only cashed out part of my assets. Hodled to my last breath. Not the one to half step. It's so strange. Wealth is like a rebirth. Clawed my way out of debt. Fueled by my research. Crypto fam, welcome to Lamboland. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance. Crypto fam, welcome to Lamboland. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance.
Breaking news, this just in. Justin's son has officially announced when he will officially announce that big announcement he announced on Twitter last week. More details to follow as they come in. Back to you.
Hi, it's Miss Crypto Cleo here, your favorite futures telling psychic. Are you unsure whether to go long, short, or market buy? Not sure which of your altcoins is going to move next? No problem. Call me at 1-800-555-MOON and Miss Crypto Cleo will tell your futures. Oh, here we have a caller now. Hello, it's Miss Crypto Cleo. How can I tell your future?
Hi, Miss Crypto Cleo. First off, I just want to say that I really love your show, and I want to know, is XRP going to 589? Thanks so much.
Coming up next. Stay tuned to learn more about the state of blockchain education at major universities all around the world. REIMAGINE 2020. Hello and welcome back. My name is Tyler Olson. I am the University Program Director, and I have with me here today Oyedeji Olawai. He is the founder of CoinCentrics. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Right on. I'm doing just fine, man. We've been under a lot of crunch time, but I'm glad to be here. Happy to be getting some insights on how we might reimagine 2020. So, you know, one thing that I notice as I go further down the crypto blockchain rabbit hole is that there's a wide variety of people that are involved in this space. And that's in large part because there's a lot of different aspects that attract people to what's going on here, right? You've got your people that are more tech oriented, you know, they like to geek out on the tech. You got your sort of libertarian, anarcho-capitalist types. You got people who are just, I guess, trying to capitalize on an extremely volatile market, right? You got your moon boys and girls.
Yeah, facts.
And I think that all of those things, right, they sort of integrate in a interesting, cohesive way. So I'm not here to kind of judge the variety of that. I think that it's a great thing, but I only bring it up because I'm curious. What's your background? You know, how did you get interested in this space? What do you got going on?
Cool beans. No, great question. Background. So I was born and raised in Australia, so I feel like that's one of the biggest diversity parts when we look like growing up. So a lot of diversities, a lot of different ethnic backgrounds. And within that brings a lot of different trades and a little different, like, obviously, culture mixing. So from there, I came to the US to go to school, and I was doing computer science for my bachelor's. So when I was doing computer science for my bachelor's, I got up out of there, and then I walked into the network engineering space. So once I got into the network engineering space, I was working for AT&T doing the management of the Asian network. And I wanted to advance my studies. So I dived in to do my master's. And when I was diving into my master's, I was like, okay, what can combine this network engineering knowledge with, I was currently learning a lot of finance, then understanding my 401k, different things of that nature. And then I ran into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in 2015. So in 2016, I was doing my master's thesis, and it was called the Network Analysis of Bitcoin and the Blockchain Ecosystem. And at that point, there wasn't too many apps on the App Store and the Android store, especially on the iPhone aspects of the iOS. So putting together and understanding the small applications that can just aid the ecosystem, because at then we're looking at VC investment was small. When we look at the numbers now, all these different cryptocurrencies in the top 100 and plus 100, they weren't really around. It was just a smaller space. But so it was really good understanding the infrastructure at that level, which is maybe now, 5 to 6 years ago, and to where it is now. And it's just basically next level. But that's how the networking engineering side and then my interest in finance led me down to Bitcoin. But the major factor, really what drove me down into those studies was international remittance use case. And, you know, my grandmother still lives in Nigeria, and I was looking at the Western Union fees, and that stuff was just mind boggling. And then that's what sent me down the rabbit hole, you know, understanding that how can I send money overseas for much cheaper? And that's where the Australian aspects, still got family members in Australia. So it was like sending money internationally shouldn't be this difficult, you know? And then now I'm here 6 years later, right? No hair. I used to have hair, now no hair, you know what I'm saying? So no, it's a good journey. I love it.
You heard it here, folks. Bitcoin will make you go bald. No, so I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your thesis. What was the conclusion of your research there?
Oh yeah. So no, it was just really like since it was such a new topic, even my professors were like, yo, what are these terms? What is happening here? But since my thesis committee, it was like 3 out of 4 of them were of Chinese origin. So they had a little bit of understanding, because I think one of the committee members' brother was mining back then. So the end result was that applications, and for this ecosystem to grow, we needed to have these applications. That means having the infrastructure for developers to come in, understanding the whole mining aspect of keeping new coins being generated, the power, the electricity, and then and as well as the VC aspects, the financial institutions. So all of these structures were so brand new then, and it was basically the end. It was like the ecosystem needs to grow, and then what are our parts, especially with open source software, to help that ecosystem grow. And that's, like you're saying, creating Android apps, creating iOS apps, creating these more structured and legal infrastructure firms, and obviously developing these more advanced research aspects.
Great. And before, you had mentioned that one of the things that you liked about Bitcoin was that it made international payments easy, because you're from Australia, you still have some family back there. But that's not the only international location that you're used to, right? You did a tour through Africa. I think I remember you saying that it was more or less to try to help get some blockchain, cryptocurrency, educational orgs off the ground over there. Tell me a little bit about your tour through Africa.
Yeah, 2017, that was really much the focus of, that's when I created Concentrics Capital. So still working, but then I was like, okay, this is such interesting. And this was a little bit before the whole ICO bubbles hit. And it was just like, how can I create an effect because of the whole fees of the Western Union aspect? So once we dived down there, I wanted to start here domestically first. So we applied and got a grant from the Zcash Foundation, and shout out to them. And then they gave us a grant, and then I went around 5 to 6 US university schools within the domestic side. And I went to go do these workshops, really to expose the cryptocurrency ecosystem to a more diverse aspects to the African-American universities, HBCUs. And I was doing workshops there because for this ecosystem to truly grow, you need everybody to participate. And even if this was a chance for investment, that markets that people weren't really exposed to, this was a perfect time for them to at least get some type of, surface level knowledge on it, right? Because it was so new. Like, where do I put my private keys? Where do I store, where do I store these codes? What is this, right? But you keep hearing it, especially in mainstream and, all these different markets. So once I finished the domestic research, we really understood that the technology is very powerful. A lot of the majority, when we're doing these customer discovery type of activities, no one, like, it's just like money, right? No one's gonna be like, oh, how do I know money? Most people just use it, So it folded us into a building aspect of, okay, we did all these outreach activities, we understand this data, but we truly need to make these infrastructure level type of developments. And when it comes to the African infrastructure, we knew there's a surge in mobile phone adoption happening over the continent. There's been so many successes with M-Pesa and stuff in East Africa and Uganda, and understanding the power of mobile money. So from that aspect, I knew that academic institutions will play a very crucial role, especially when we're talking about the upstart of maybe, I think they say now, maybe 180 to almost 200 million people in Nigeria alone. And if everyone's used to their cell phones, people need to learn about this. There's multiple rollouts to the phases, and outreach is definitely one of them. So utilizing the thesis, and my dad is also a professor out there. He teaches summer schools. I went back with him, and I closed some couple MOUs with some universities to bring some workshops back to the local communities so they can start understanding it, so we don't miss out globally on this aspect. Because once I got into the global aspects, when I looked at the thesis research, I knew that everybody needs to participate. And when this cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, it really breaks down borders, that now can be like, okay, this can be used in Ghana, this can be used in Cameroon, this can be used in Morocco, right? So and we can really cut out the fees, and that brings more money into the communities. More money into the communities brings in more development and more basically quality of life. So
Yeah. One of the things that I was talking to Norbert about earlier was whether or not we think that blockchain technology and the use of cryptocurrencies is going to flourish in Africa, I guess, easier than it would in certain other Western societies, because they don't have such a robust infrastructure there. So like, it's almost like they have less to lose there. And so if they see an opportunity to like really improve things with the new technology, you know, maybe they're sort of quicker to embrace it. I mean, do you agree with that? Or what do you think? Like, do you think that it's really like a hotbed for
yeah, that's a good question. I see that. I understand that there's a storyline aspect as well. I think currently we're trying to do a lot of pilots and proof of concepts to really get that data, to really prove that, just to, you know, validate that aspects. I personally think so, because with the mobile money aspects, the success of the M-Pesa project out there in Uganda and East Africa, I can really see that how cryptocurrencies can be used, because all you need now is a cell phone. You have all these new technologies and product rollouts, even from Visa, contactless payments. We see now COVID now is like, you don't even want to touch the keypads, right? So everything's contactless. So you really want to, you know, utilize different tools and different technology aspects to really, you know, innovate the payment space. So I think cryptocurrencies definitely has an opportunity to flourish there. We see that now, at least it's its own market, alternative digital asset market, that people can definitely trade in, trade out. But outside of the trading, we can find, you know, actual use cases, and I believe developing countries can spearhead that.
And how about Coincentrics? What are y'all doing to, you know, advance all this stuff in the way that you can, right? You know, you carve out your little corner, and, you know, we all do what we can. What are y'all doing at Coincentrics?
Oh yeah, so basically just developing for like 2019 and up to now, it's just really being just in the code. Okay, where do I start here? So when I've been talking about the infrastructure aspect, we're working, me and my COO, Pascal, we've been working on a API development piece for the background, so to connect into the financial infrastructure. So, you know, you have all these different African banks, you have, you know, the African continent, or we're building like the APIs and the endpoints to really connect, to facilitate, you know, the ease of cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies on the continent. So that's called SarkeyBit. We're also working with different technology stacks called OneSwitch, that's connecting multiple different point of sale solutions without the use of actual machines. So utilizing old technologies, especially in telco, using USSD payments channels as different alternatives for payments. So that's actually like in a very good proof of concept stage and pilot stage now. On the real creative side, digital payments. One of the apps that I built in my thesis was something that was just identifying Bitcoin ATM machines. So that was using longitude and latitude. And last year we won this competition for Atlanta Airport because the Super Bowl was in Atlanta. They had this innovation competition. We won that with those using longitude and latitude for the what do you call it, geofencing technology. So now we've been playing with this whole new blockchain infrastructure with longitude and latitudes, and that's called POP, and we call that proof of presence. So we're really in the phase of that. Really, that's actually really excites me. And within the crypto space, yeah, like the outreach activities, applying for grants, especially for the Nigerian universities. Like I said, we did the MOU of Oslo State. Zcash did a stream to the University of Ibadan, the school my dad works at, to get students on that campus much more active. And even with me recently, leaving my corporate America job within this crisis, probably in the next couple of weeks, to really focus in once the airport opens up. Going to go back to Nigeria for a couple of months to really understand and really push these projects, because I think with the economic boom, with the cell phone adoption, this is the perfect opportunity to really at least put my knowledge that I've learned here on the West Side to, West Africa, basically. So that's what we've got going here.
Yeah, because the last time we spoke, I think you were talking about how you were going to be going back to Africa, but then, all this COVID stuff hit and put a halt on that really quick. But on that note, we're starting to run out of time here. So I just want to sort of throw this last question out.
Yeah.
It's been a interesting year so far, to say the least. We're not even 6 months through the year, and we've seen a lot of volatility in the markets. We've seen people losing their jobs, people getting sick and whatnot. I'm of the opinion that it's the time for people like us working in the blockchain industry to really double down, because it's in a lot of ways the sort of context in which this stuff was built for, right?
Sure.
So it really needs to shine through more than ever now. How do you see things unfolding from this point forward? How do you think that we're going to reimagine things after 2020?
No, 100%. No, great question. I think the behavior shift has been implemented with the thought process. I think we being in the house, people obviously, like right now we're on virtual conference, right? This could have definitely been in person, but I think all those behavioral shifts, even though I think reality and society is going to snap back into it a little bit, there's certain permanent things that's going to stick around. I think just under the COVID, I think I tried to touch up on it before. Contactless payments, I think that's definitely going to be something. I think, like I said, the QR codes, the RFID chips in the debit cards, credit cards, all that stuff is going to be utilized much more. I think innovation is definitely going to spiral from this phase. Personally, like I said, I think Africa is going to be one of the biggest hotspots going into around like 2030, 2040, 2050. I think communication technologies, information sharing, infrastructure type of projects are really going to take a spearhead. I think they're really going to be on the forefront, because I think we're really building. You see everything, all these buzzwords, AI, all these things are going to be integrated into these new tech, and it's like, okay, who's going to be spearheading that? And like you said, you got these different alternative creative people like ourselves, at least trying to implement some different tech. So as well, I'm sorry, the population growth from 7 billion to 9 billion, agriculture, food sector, all these things is really going to spiral, and I think technology has to play a part, but the right type of tech. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, Yadeji, thanks for taking some time out of your day to hop on a call with me, man. Coincentrics, is there a website that you can plug real quick if people want to learn more about you guys?
Cool, man. 100%. Coincentrics.io as well. Probably can check me out. Now I'm official contributor to the Forbes, the Middle East. So back to my whole little global aspects, learning more about the Middle East. So definitely on the Forbes platform, putting some interesting pieces. But yeah, Instagram, all that is just Coincentrics as well. And the emails on the websites. Anybody interested in me, an email. Definitely, I love talking about crypto. I love talking about blockchain. And like I said, even the University Club in Oslo State, definitely trying to plug in with the whole mouse belt system, and so we can accelerate and try to do much more pilots that can produce much more outcomes. So yeah, that's me, man.
Beautiful, man. Well, I wish you a happy rest of 2020.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Man, appreciate it, boss. Thanks, man.
Y'all thought crypto was a thing.
We ain't going nowhere.
We the OG Ledger Gang.
Ledger gang, ledger gang, ledger gang.
We stay rockin' in the chain.
Blockchain.
Auto crypto be the main.
BTFD.
See the ledger swinging from my neck. Y'all already know what I rep. Stacking that crypto, we gaining no haters. There's really no flexing, be wet. Splash. I can can go anywhere with it. Don't matter the number, there really no limit. Really no limit, there really no limit. Ooh, yeah, get it. Know that I get it. Do you know that I get it? Load the bit, pay, yeah, spend it. You know the private key is authentic? Know that I get it. Do you know that I get it? Load the bit, pay, yeah, spend it. You know the private key is authentic?
Y'all thought crypto was a thing.
We ain't going nowhere.
We the OG Ledger Gang.
Ledger gang, ledger gang, ledger gang.
We stay rockin' in the chain.
Blockchain,
Auto crypto be the main.
BTFD. Man, crypto's a bubble. When it pops, you in trouble. What you gonna do when the government kick in the door and start taking it from you?
Man, crypto ain't a bubble, please. Tell me how they gonna get my private keys. The government can't keep an eye on me. I mean, you act like you don't want privacy.
Yeah, but what's a Bitcoin really? I mean, it seems so silly. So what you trying to tell me is banks are about to fall flat on their belly?
Yup, that's what I'm trying to explain. This is peer-to-peer, global exchange. In this world, banks ain't running the game. Border to border, blockchain, blockchain.
Tell me what you know about the blockchain. Gas limit set low octane. Taking down the banks, we are not playing. Bitcoin and fiat, we are not the same.
Y'all thought crypto was a thing.
We ain't going nowhere.
We the OG Ledger Gang.
Ledger gang, ledger gang, ledger gang.
We stay rockin' in the chain.
Blockchain,
Auto crypto be the main.
BTFD.
Y'all thought crypto was a thing.
We ain't going nowhere.
We the OG Ledger Gang.
Ledger gang, ledger gang, ledger gang.
We stay rockin' in the chain.
Blockchain,
Auto crypto be the main.
BTFD.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Fauci Nakamoto. I'm here to tell you that if you're having green candle erectile dysfunction, just remember that ETH is money and market buy that
We have some breaking news. The Lightning Network, the Layer 2 scaling solution for Bitcoin proposed by Blockstream, is still just 18 months away. It's only been 18 months since their last vaporware announcement. Back to you.
Greetings, fanciful leaders of this world, and wannabe authorities of all stripes. You thought that you could just print infinite money, did you? Well, the decentralized world of cryptocurrencies is on the rise. It's only a matter of time before the intricate web of blockchain architecture and distributed governance enables so much financial and existential freedom that your model becomes obsolete. Good luck. Time is running out.
Is Tyler Olson. I am the University Program Director at Mousebelt and one of your co-hosts for REIMAGINE 2020. I have with me here Shirley Valgay of Velas. I just learned of Velas recently because I came across the Coin Bros. In fact, we just did an interview with the Coin Bros. Shout out to Coin Bros. They're awesome. Go check out their music videos. But as I was searching those guys and seeing what I could do to bring them on, I found out that they were ambassadors for this new project, Velas. So naturally, we wanted to bring Velas on too, and sort of give them a chance to say a little bit about kind of what they're doing in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. And so to speak on behalf of Velas, we have Shirley Valge, who is the project lead. Is that right? You want to introduce yourself real quick, Shirley?
Yeah, so I'm Shirley. Thank you for having me. And yes, CoinBros are our ambassadors, and they're doing a great job. I'm based in our headquarters in Crypto Valley in Switzerland. And I got interested in Bitcoin and blockchain space back in 2016, where I saw it as an opportunity to enter a relatively early stage emerging industry. So I started educating myself, and early 2017, I made my first investments. I remember people were considering me crazy, but the passion quickly turned into an addiction, so to speak. So 2017, November, I moved to Switzerland, Crypto Valley Labs. I started working with a mining investment firm. And then I gathered practical experience with conducting token raise, fundraise, the practical knowledge about necessary legislation, and even how to set up mining rigs, because we had a huge mining farm in Switzerland. And now, over a year ago, I have had the honor to lead the global scale project Velas, which is the world's first artificial intuition empowered blockchain and ecosystem. And I think our team has grown within this time 10 times. So it has been an amazing journey. And yeah, well, technology has been always my interest, because I'm originally from Estonia. So we had computer lessons since 2nd or 3rd grade, and e-school since 6th grade, electronic elections since 2005, and by now we have all the governmental services online 24/7 on a distributed ledger technology. So it kind of creates a society which is transparent, and therefore my passion for decentralized systems now.
Beautiful. So you mentioned artificial intuition as something that's sort of woven into the Velas protocol. Maybe we can back that up a little bit, and maybe you can say a little bit more about what Velas is. What is the Velas protocol trying to do in this space?
Yes, so Velas stands for Virtual Expanding Learning Autonomous System. And the idea is to solve the famous blockchain trilemma and create a blockchain that learns and optimizes its own consensus over time, and eventually does what is best for its own network. And we are implementing AI on its consensus to remove the human interference, because humans are, they want to sleep, they are not available 24/7, and generally they're slower than machines. And through artificial intuition, the blockchain is able to speed up its response to threats and attacks, and detecting anomalies. So the faster you can tell something is wrong, the faster it can get into defense mode, and less likely an attacker will have a chance to cause any issues. So this way we can have a very fast blockchain and not compromise security and decentralization, which are the still ongoing concerns on current blockchains, alongside with nothing at stake problem and 51% attack. So that's what we are solving with the artificial intuition layer on our consensus. Also, we are creating a reputation layer. So this will allow better relationship between AI and the resource sharing nodes on the Velas network. And this is a completely revolutionary, as it's a brand new way of keeping network participants scored.
Mm-hmm. So the threefold problem with blockchains that you referred to is that security, interoperability, scalability, right? Like how do you process the amount of transactions that you need to sort of scale to the sort of large numbers of people that might eventually participate in the network while also keeping it safe and being able to communicate with other chains? Is that the threefold issue that you referred to?
Yeah, exactly. So the trilemma consists of decentralization, security, and transaction throughput or scalability. And you shouldn't actually compromise one over the other. And this is the current issue on the blockchain. So we are solving this with the artificial intuition. Mm-hmm. And there is actually a very interesting fact that artificial intuition, which we strictly stick to artificial intuition when we speak about Velas, because it acts as a more of like a human consciousness rather than just plain robot.
Yeah. I was wondering about that because, you know, we typically sort of, when you hear the acronym AI, you think of artificial intelligence, and I heard you kept saying artificial intuition. What is the sort of distinguishing mark there between the two?
Yeah,
if there is a significant difference.
Yeah, they are pretty similar, but it's still deep learning patterns, but artificial intuition behaves more like a consciousness in a hostile environment. Mm-hmm. Through its neural networks. So it's pretty interesting to research it further. I recommend a Petri dish study where you see how bacterial evolves with the fight with antibiotics. And this is how we simulate it in our artificial intuition neural networks. So they know how to become stronger through attacks or hacking, and it constantly evolves itself, and it learns from the past hacking or threats, and it becomes stronger and stronger on its own.
Got it. So, what does the neural network layer actually do? Or I mean, maybe let me phrase it a different way. How what's its function within the network? What is it trying to do? Because it's like, I sort of know a little bit about AI at a high level, where sort of you have a bunch of vector weights that are set at random, right? And then you sort of determine a desired output, and then you sort of feed the system inputs, and then you just do a bunch of calculus to sort of adjust the vector weights so that you reduce the margin of error every time you run the input in, you know, because it will give you something. And it gets closer and closer to the sort of output that you want. And then eventually, you know, it just starts to recognize stuff. I mean, at least that's what it was like in the early days of AI. So is it that you're identifying some sort of like desired output? You say, okay, I want the system to be as decentralized as possible. And then you work with a defined concept of decentralized, right? You sort of program this sort of concept there, and then you use the neural network to like figure out the best way to kind of preserve that definition of decentralization. Or
yeah, there will be parameters given, and we train the neural networks first within our own inner network before we let it out there. And I'm not a computer engineer on that sense, but
sure.
This is how it pretty much works. Yeah, but it has to be trained first.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's the way that things will go, but I think they have to go that way in the blockchain space, because I know that one of the biggest threats to the purported security of these networks is quantum computing. And it seems like it's going to take some sort of machine learning layer to actually combat that. Though I only half, if even half, know what I'm talking about there. So maybe.
Yeah, well, we are also going to implement some nodes on quantum computers. So it takes way longer to hack these systems than regular blockchains or Bitcoin blockchain.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, I look forward to see what happens with Velas in the future. How old is the project? How long have y'all been around?
Well, actually, it's rooted from coinpayments.net. So it's founded by the same person, Alex Alexandrov. And CoinPayments was founded 2013, and it's the world's first and biggest payment processing platform. It supports over 1,800 cryptocurrencies, and it has 3 million active users on its platform. And they got the idea by integrating so many coins with different blockchains and different consensuses on their platform. They got an idea to develop something interoperable. So Velas development actually started already 2.5 years ago, but the company was incorporated 1 year ago. So yeah, so the coin, we had our own coin, payments coin, which was rebranded to Velas coin back in 4th of July last year. And this represented an independence of the Velas project. So all the coin payments coins were 1-to-1 swapped to Velas coins. And Velas will eventually be also a native coin on the coin payments platform. So we have like a 3 million user base, which are already following our project. And also there are some partnerships already, like a Korean project, Mind.ai, who are building on Velas. And also we have launched our multi-currency wallets from last year already. So one can easily access our wallet to store cryptocurrencies or exchange them or transact. And also you can set up your masternode easily there to participate in the Velas network, and you can delegate your stake. So it is really user-friendly interface. And in the near future, now actually within May maybe, we are launching a Velas fair where one can stake their GPU, CPU, disk space and earn rewards for it.
Okay, so like distributed computing, distributed cloud, something like that, where you take like unused hardware space on your computer and you can sort of become a part of the network and get paid.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
And future plans are great. We have many products coming up. A decentralized YouTube called VTube, and decentralized file storage called Velas Drive. So there are many dApps to build on, and we're also just launched a campaign to onboard developers to build dApps on Velas mainnet or shift the existing projects that run on Ethereum onto Velas, which is made extremely seamless and easy. So when some developer is interested, then they can check velas.com and get in contact with us through dapps@velas.com.
dApps through velas.com. That's VELAS.com.
Yes, exactly.
Call for developers.
Yeah. So right now we have delegated proof of stake as consensus, and the AI will be launched, added by Q3 in this year. Then it will be AI TPOS as a consensus, and it will be completely open source and permissionless blockchain.
Great. I mean, it sounds very interesting. Sounds like the way of the future, if you will. And
yeah.
On that note, I want to throw out one last question to you that we've been asking everybody that we've been getting on a call here, and it has to do with the future. It's been an interesting year so far, 2020. If you haven't noticed, people have been driven into virtual reality against their will in most cases. In other cases, this is just the way of life for some. How do you want to reimagine 2020? How do you see things unfolding from this point forward? And what does that have to do with blockchain, cryptocurrencies, or otherwise?
Yeah, well, pretty sure. I believe in the light of the coronavirus crisis, businesses were wishing they were more decentralized and automated. And I'm sure that the investments will ramp up in the aftermath of coronavirus crisis, and the automation and AI is the next leap, not only in technology and manufacturing, but also in customer service and other fields of businesses. And it will definitely take over a lot of jobs and processes that currently or so far human were handling. Actually, there is a report by World Economic Forum which predicts that over 50% of jobs will be handled by machines by 2025 already. So I think it's just a matter of time until our entire lives are integrated with artificial intelligence, artificial intuition, also via smart cities and Internet of Things. And also it will have a great impact on learning and educational platforms, because AI can enable more personalized, more adaptive and accessible learning. So, for example, there's never two people with the same skill set and orientation. So the study programs can, with help of personalized algorithms, be adjusted and suited to the concrete students considering their requirements. Also, I just yesterday discussed with my friend who's a teacher how AI could simplify her life and her tasks. And we came to a conclusion that it could provide a real-time feedback on the gaps, or warn a teacher about the gaps and help improving the educational program. Also, it can significantly simplify and automate the administrative tasks like the grading or filling in the blank exams, and because this can be all automated by using AI. And this way educators can focus on the more critical tasks like spending more time with students.
I love it. Yeah, I like how you touched on a little bit of the implications of all this stuff for education there, and us, being so interested in education initiatives. I really appreciate that. So you heard it here, folks. Velas Protocol, Shirley Valge. I really appreciate you taking some time to hop on a call with me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I wish you all the best, and I wish you a happy rest of 2020.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.
You're tuned in to Reimagine 2020. Stay tuned to learn more about the state-of-the-art in blockchain education and technological development all around the world. Reimagine 2020.
Hi, it's Miss Crypto Cleo here, your favorite futures telling psychic. Are you unsure whether to go long, short, or market buy? Not sure which of your altcoins is going to move next? No problem. Call me at 1-800-555-MOON and Miss Crypto Cleo will tell your futures. Oh, here we have a caller now. Hello, it's Miss Crypto Cleo. How can I tell your future?
Hi, Miss Crypto Cleo. First off, I just want to say that I really love your show, and I want to know, is XRP going to 589? Thanks so much.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Fauci Nakamoto. I'm here to tell you that if you're having green candle erectile dysfunction, just remember that ETH is money and market buy that
We have some breaking news. The Lightning Network, the Layer 2 scaling solution for Bitcoin proposed by Blockstream, is still just 18 months away. It's only been 18 months since their last vaporware announcement. Back to you.
Coming up next. Stay tuned to learn more about student interest in blockchain technology. Reimagine 2020.
Hey everybody, my name is Andrei Semenov. I'm a part of the Kona Services organization that is an IT services company for the Coca-Cola bottlers. My role is a director of the supply chain innovation in Kona, and I'm responsible for all supply chain innovation that pertains to warehouse and operations, transportations, etc.
Hey everybody, it's Patrick McLean, one of your hosts here, as you know, for Reimagine 2020. As part of our 72-hour journey I am very excited for the next interview. I have had the chance to talk with this person in the kind of very high level ways the last few weeks, and had some very interesting conversations with him. Why? And I'll let Andre introduce himself in a second as part of Kona. And, you know, what really intrigued me the first time I talked to Andre was just to hear, you know, what his organization was doing, kind of their commitment to execution on blockchain. But before I talk too much for him, I will let him introduce himself. But Andre, if you want to introduce yourself and, you know, tell everybody maybe a little bit about, you know, how you got to blockchain and what you're doing.
Hey, everybody. My name is Andrei Semenov. I'm a director of supply chain innovation at Kona. That is an IT services company for the Coca-Cola bottlers in North America and Canada. I'm happy to be a part of the REIMAGINE 2020. And thanks for inviting us to this conference.
So zoom out a little bit. Like, what is your role at Kona? Can you tell everybody just a little bit about Kona? I just learned about Kona myself the first time recently.
So Kona stands for Coke One North America, and the Coke One goes back to 2008 when our organization decided to create a template, the solution template that the Coca-Cola bottlers worldwide could use. And just, you know, the Coca-Cola is a franchise system, and worldwide we have over 250 bottling companies that manufacture, produce, and distribute Coca-Cola to their customers, retailers, convenience stores, etc. So Coke One historically was a platform that was rolled out worldwide for the bottlers to run their backend, run the manufacturing, all the supply chain and finance. And Coke One North America was born in 2011, 2012, when we decided to implement Coke One template in North America for the 12 largest North American bottlers. Today, we have all the 12 bottlers on our platform running their operations, day-to-day operations through the Kona systems, and they're generating over 20 billion revenue through our system, North America and Canada. I think we can finish here.
Well, and what really intrigued me about Kona, and I just want to distill it down, right? Like we have many people listening to this call. So there's probably a few thousand students that are going to watch this, interested in blockchain. There's like general blockchain enthusiasts. There's enterprise people. And I really want to push for like an elevated conversation. And I have a core feeling you can add to that uniquely, probably more than most people. If I can just, I'll try to do my layman term description, but it's Coca-Cola. It's like, what's Coke? Nah, one of the biggest drinks in the world, right? And you guys don't, it sounds like you guys don't deliver everything yourself. There's a lot of partners that help you deliver your product. Is that fair?
Right. So the Coca-Cola bottlers produce and deliver the product, and Coke doesn't do it themselves. And just to, you know, all the red trucks that you see on the road in any point in the country or in the world is driven by the bottling business. And our goal was to bring all the bottlers together on a single platform. And there is a business network in place that consists of these large, mid-sized, and small bottlers that are, by definition, trading partners between each other. And with blockchain, our goal was to bring trust and bring transparency to this already existing business network that's been in place for 100 years, and bring them onto the same platform, same network, where they can transact seamlessly, provide visibility to supply chain transactions, and go to the next level of automating and optimizing their business processes as they buy and sell products between each other.
So for everybody listening, this is a good example. From the first time I talked to Andre, one reason I liked him, because he's very efficient in the way he answers questions. There's a lot to unpack from what he just said, and I want to kind of get to that. But before we get to that, again, Andre, there's a lot of students listening to this call. The 19, 20, 21-year-olds are kind of thinking about their career paths, CS majors, engineers, you know, business people that see opportunities in blockchain are kind of curious about what the future holds. can you tell everybody listening, like, what was your path to get to this point, right? Like, what was maybe your past experience or your past passions, past jobs, etc., that kind of led you to blockchain? Are you an enthusiast of blockchain, and what was that? What did that evolution look like?
Yeah, that's a perfect question. I'm happy to be with Kona because here I was able to bring my passion, my hobby into the actual idea and project, and now running this project in production. So I started my journey with blockchain back in 2016. I learned a lot about Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, and kind of as working with Kona at that time, thinking how the distributed ledger technologies can help solve some of the major bottler problems and optimize their processes. How can we help the bottlers unlock the new values and bring the new ideas into their day-to-day operations with some innovation? And blockchain was one of them. And basically, we just decided to start with an idea. We incubated the idea. We had a few use cases. We reviewed what we can do with blockchain, and we moved forward. We had a very good business engagement. As we went through our project implementation, build, and experimentation phases, we wanted to include some of the key business partners from the field, from the bottler operations, to educate them what this technology can bring on the table and how it can improve their operations and at the end improve their dollar baseline. And what we did for that, we didn't want to run it as a formal project in Kona. We didn't want to run it as a formal initiative, but rather go and do more experimentation, see what we can do, fast fail and redo. And we partnered a lot with the local universities. We're located in Atlanta, Georgia, so we worked a lot with Georgia Tech, GSU universities, just to see who is going to be interested in helping us. And some of the key players in our project has become our interns and our employees later that are now leading the blockchain project.
Got it. Last question before I pivot, and I have a few questions to kind of unpack what you were telling us about Kona earlier, because I think it actually, the experiences you guys have learned from Kona, kind of dealing with many parties, kind of play really well into blockchain inherently.
Yeah.
So before we get into other parts, I think it's something to unpack. But just for anyone listening, like, are you technical? Are you an engineer? Like, how would you describe yourself briefly?
So my background is a master's in computer science. So I have a technical background, and I've been a developer in the beginning of my career, and then become a consultant more in the SAP implementation space, working in the gas and oil industry, retail, and then moving on to the CPG and food and beverages industry with Coca-Cola.
Got it. All right, so let's go back to kind of Kona for a little bit, because I think it's important, and would like to get your insight. So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, I see Kona as, like, obviously Coke is this big brand. They have a ton of resources, and at some point you guys identified, hey, we have these desperate parties, we have these individual parties, and it's beneficial to us to in some way, I don't want to say unify, but I'm assuming it's unification, but also like centralize our resources to kind of help everyone unilaterally, right? So when I compare that to blockchain, I kind of see a lot of similarities, right? Especially when we think of blockchain outside of DeFi, like when we think of blockchain and supply chain, whatever, right? Like, one of the hardest things I think of for blockchain adoption in supply chain is that there are so many disconnected parties that it takes a lot to kind of get sign off from so many of them, that it inherently, even if the technology is there, there can be other roadblocks that will just never lead to deployment. So, and I would like to hear your explanation, and if I'm butchering it, let me know. But I see Kona as being in a really unique spot where you don't own them. You're a value add partner, And because you're a value add partner, you can identify things that will help, right? And it sounds like you guys have identified blockchain. So not to go on too long, but do you think that's like a unique benefit to what the situation you guys have? And has that impacted how you're thinking about blockchain?
Yeah, so I think what we want to emphasize here, that Kona is in a unique position to work with multiple bottlers, multiple independent companies who are running the Coca-Cola business. And we're in a unique position where we need to listen to our bottlers and unify the processes that they need to run in order to support their business and bring them onto a single platform in a standardized way. And what blockchain helped us to achieve is to extend our backend ERP systems and extend them to the other mid-size and small-size bottlers to create this bottling or beverages network where the bottlers could operate efficiently using similar processes, and in particular in supply chain, procurement, and invoicing.
That's the first time that's happened to me in 4 days. But I thought you were gonna go on longer. We'll edit this part out.
Okay.
I'll pick it up from that. So and I hear what you're saying, but to dive a bit deeper, like, do you think that gives you guys like a very unique advantage where like other companies, like they don't control that process as much as they're not as hands-on?
So what the unique position of Kona is, our goal is, and I think where we're moving forward, is to become a strategic partner for our bottling partners, where we can be used as an innovator or advisor on implementation new technologies that can be applied and implemented across multiple trading partners, and use us to build the best practices and standards into our solutions. And the bottlers see us as a partner that help them to reduce their IT spend, but at the same time make the IT systems, the IT platform standardized and supportable for their business operations.
Got it. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it safe to say that like when you reflect and compare yourself to maybe your competitors or other industry leaders, would you say that you guys are on the upper echelon of adoption of blockchain, or the lower half, or?
So we see ourselves as a very pragmatic team, taking a very pragmatic approach as far as the blockchain is concerned. We started with a very concrete problems that we had in our cross entities collaborations use cases that we tried to solve, and we saw the distributed ledger and blockchain technologies being a great fit there. And as we have our production environment up and running for almost 8 months, it's going to be a year in September, we're unlocked and we quantified some of the returns or performance improvements and some of the opportunities costs coming back to the bottlers that blockchain is generating. We see ourselves looking into the blockchain implementation from the use case perspective. We're really happy to partner with more of our internal trading partners, including more and more Coca-Cola bottlers, just because we're already an established business network, and it's easier to negotiate and come to a single conclusion on what the network should be, what the functionality should be there, what information we want to share between each other. And then I think the end goal is to start reaching out to our key suppliers and our key customers to start working with them and including them into our network to increase the benefits and add more benefits to the network as a whole.
Got it. So I want to talk for a second about what does your guys' journey look like, right? Like, obviously at some point you dipped your toes in the water in blockchain. Like, when did that kind of start? how has that evolution across that journey really worked out, right? Like maybe some lessons you've learned through that process?
Yeah, so we started our blockchain journey in Kona about 2 years ago when myself and my other colleague, we pitched to our leadership team and we said that we want to solve some concrete use cases and implement the blockchain in Kona for the bottlers. So we started our partnership with some of the key vendors to talk about, we're doing the design thinking, what we need to do, what the solution should look like, who needs to participate in this. And we moved on into more the ideation phase, design thinking phase pretty quickly, engage our business partners. And as we were building the solution, we were also educating the business folks on what the blockchain does. About a year ago, we were able to successfully pilot the solution. And shortly after, we decided to move in our production environment. And the whole idea was not to experiment too much, not to make it a project infinity where we're just trying to develop something without a concrete use case, concrete outcome, but rather deliver the value quickly, move into production, realize the value, calculate what we get from this, and move on to the next use case or enhance the current use case, add a new participant to the network, grow it, and take a very step-by-step, very tactical approach.
For anyone listening, by the way, I'm telling you, from the first time I talked to Andre, I was like, this guy's smart. And he plays like really cool. He's not gonna like show it to you. Like Andre is a killer. I'm telling you, Andre knows what he's doing. So I want to hear more about you on this. Like, so you've been part of this at Kona pretty much from the early stages, the blockchain adoption, yeah?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I basically.
Well, hey, hang on. Yeah. And I got my next question now.
Okay.
But like, all right, so if you could go back in time, if you had a time machine, like, and you go back to like beginning Andre Kona thing, what would you tell yourself? Like, what lessons did you learn on that journey that if you go back in time, you're like, oh man, this was dumb. Or we should approach this totally differently.
I think the lessons learned that we had, first, you always, as we understand the technology, and I've been enthusiast in blockchain, and we had some really great technical resources. We knew, what technologies we want to use, but number one success that we see in our story is that we don't go alone as an IT organization. We partner with the business, and we help them learn and kind of immerse in what the blockchain is, understand what the benefits are and why we want to do this. We don't want to try to find the nail where we know that we have a hammer and we just want to play with the new technology, but rather approach it from the business and the problem perspective. And so what probably we would do differently is maybe engage more business community, have more webinars, more training materials that would help a lot of people to get very excited about the blockchain technology and understand the difference about the distributed ledger technology versus the Bitcoin or Ethereum, just the cryptocurrency aspect of it that they have the initial knowledge of.
So like who is that community though? Like if you were to build resources or outlets, or you would have improved communication, like I want to be clear for everybody listening, because and I'll explain why I care about this, right? Like, yeah. I think there's like a big divide. There's like on one side, there's all these people like, oh, Bitcoin and all these maximalists and they want to burn down the world. On the other side, everybody's building all these blockchain applications where I think I've been in technology most of my life. Like I'm a bit disappointed at adoption right now. Now it's hard to say that, right? Hindsight's always 20/20. Like, yeah. Should we have done blockchain faster? Okay, maybe like, right. Now you have a unique perspective. And this is where I think there's like kind of like an anarchy. I don't say anarchy. Like some of the blockchain community, when I would say, hey, you need banks to maybe help you roll out blockchain at scale, right? Or you need corporate partners or large institutional partners to really deploy your technology, where you can say, look, I've done this across 1 billion transactions, right? So, and I think validation is one of the hardest things for people to kind of hit here. You know, what, like, if you were to look at the landscape and say, you know, you've obviously seen, you have to wear probably many hats, right? Like, and I guess it kind of leads me into my second question. Like, anything you do is kind of a consortium, right? Which is, again, is very interesting from Kona. And other people on blockchain, like I just got off with ING, right? Like they're doing, the head of blockchain for ING, they're doing consortiums with other banks and regulators. Well, those are kind of like optional in their process, right? Like who kind of wants to come to the table. But in Kona, you guys, you don't really have an option, right? Like you have this base layer of third-party suppliers who you want to maintain a strong relationship, right? Like there's no incentive to not make them comfortable along the process, right? So I feel like you guys have to naturally think about multiple parties. What have been some of those concerns across like the various parties in Kona? Like what do they want to see? What buy-in do they have? What have been some of their concerns? Have they added value as you guys have been thinking about it and talking with them?
Yeah, I think the main problem with the blockchain adoption in the enterprise world, and as I hear a lot of comments from the CIOs and the CTOs of the world, is that they want to get a business plan for the blockchain implementation, like for any other project. If it's a traditional, database application implementation, they want to see the concrete return from the entrepreneurs or startups that are coming to them and pitching some of their ideas. Where I see what we want to pitch is that we, in our Coca-Cola bottling world, what we want to, we're naturally working with the consortium of the bottlers, exactly like you mentioned. And what we want to build is a network or an ecosystem that would connect these multiple parties together in a single network and unlock the ability to build distributed applications on the application that will start bringing additional value to different parts of the business. I think the problem with adoption in the blockchain is maybe the intersection of the startup and the kind of the technology evangelists that are investing their time in building more performing blockchains or more secure platforms, and then this gap to the CIOs and the CTOs of the large enterprises, and help them unlock and understand the value of why this is needed for their applications.
Would you say that are you like one of the internal evangelists, like for blockchain, like at Kona or whatever? Like if you left tomorrow, would there not be as many cheerleaders for blockchain? Like, are you one of the guys that support it internally?
I think I was one of the few guys who started the blockchain journey at Kona, and I really hope that by the time we're right now in 2020, I was able to encourage a lot of folks in the IT world as well as in the business world to embrace and move and pitch the blockchain technology internally. So hopefully that it's not just me pushing it today, but really now it's going to be maybe not a lot of people, but a handful of people who is really believing in the technology and what we can deliver with it.
Got it. So I think this is a good time to pivot. What I kind of want to talk about next is, so what's clear to me is like you guys have a unique opportunity where you have a built-in consortium. I think, which is like not your consortium will live with or without the blockchain, right? It's
exactly.
Like your consort. I swear, like from the first time I heard you talk to me, I was like, I've never heard this before. Like you guys have a very unique consortium. You guys are motivated to make this consortium happy, right? So there's like this other factor where you would have to be the most insane blockchain use case that all of your consortium hated, where you would still try to impose it on them, right? Like you're gonna want to bring them a blockchain solution that they love. And so it's like you guys start there. Okay, now we're gonna think about blockchain. They have it. You guys have an internal evangelist. Clearly, you're one of those people. So you guys set off on this journey. What? And I know we talked a little bit about like the lessons learned, but like, you know, did you guys say we're gonna do a lot of the heavy lifting internally? Are we gonna outsource all of this somewhere in the middle between like partners and what we're doing? You know, how are you guys kind of thinking about, and obviously you have a decent amount of time here and experience, right? So you've seen enough, and now you're probably looking around the corner, right? Like we've done all of these examples. We feel like we have our hands wrapped around it, and now we're going to look into the future. So when you look into the future,
right,
what were some of the lessons, and how do you think about it going forward?
So I think Kona, again, is in a very unique position to understand the problems of the Coca-Cola bottling business, the distribution side of it, and the need to improve and maybe change the business a little bit to adapt to the modern requirements. And also today we're in the unique times with the pandemic and the COVID-19 situation, where we see that there is a need of from a lot of retailers and customers of ours to have more visibility and transparency into the supply chain of their key suppliers, or visibility in the demand planning cycles of their suppliers, so they don't rely only on the orders that they have to these suppliers, but rather see how they plan the inventory, see this inventory, and from the supplier perspective, also we're a unique situation, to predict the demand from retailers. And I think the blockchain could be this layer where can connect these two together, the key suppliers and the key customers, retailers, and provide more transparency and visibility, enhanced visibility to supply chains to improve the cycles, planning cycles, and the sales cycles of both parties. So I think the goal forward for us is to definitely grow our network internally and unlock the performance and performance optimization, unlock these values for the bottlers internally, but also look into how do we partner with our key customers and key suppliers of ours? How do we partner with organizations like GS1 US from the standards perspective, that we can develop our solution by the standards using some worldwide framework, so we can talk through the blockchain to our key suppliers in future. And I think this is the main focus of ours right now, is to learn how to achieve this.
Got it. All right. So now sometimes I feel like the blockchain space, like sometimes we just talk about adoption, right? But like you guys have actually you guys have walked the walk, right? So can you take me through, a few of the use cases you guys have deployed, maybe some that you were like, man, that wasn't a good idea, right? Or like, this one excites me more than anything. Like, Patrick, this use case, no one has seen it yet. Like, I love it. Like, what excites you guys about use cases, right? And it could be, obviously, you guys have to deal with, one of the things that excites me about like even beverage companies, it's like you guys deal with cross-border payments, you guys deal with suppliers, you guys deal with labs for audits of quality control, you guys deal with, logistics, supply chain, not Coke per se. Do you guys sell any alcoholic beverages?
Some of our bottlers do sell half alcoholic beverages, half Coca-Cola beverages. These are not the Kona bottlers. However, once these bottlers become a part of the network from the Coca-Cola distribution perspective, they can also start using the same network to communicate with their trading partners on the beer, wine, and liquor side.
100%. But I was laughing with another partner the other day. I was like, man, drinks are one of the best use cases. I was like, even when somebody goes to the bar to buy your product, then they still need an identification, right? I was like, yes. I don't get that. I don't get that with toilet paper. It's not the same use case, right? So anyways, thanks for asking that. But how are you, like, can you just walk me through like your guys' history of specific applications? Like, can you tell me what really excites you guys. Like, cut through all the noise. If you're like excited about 1, 2, 3 things, like what are they, and why does it excite you?
So I think what really excites me is to see the impact and how we can implement the blockchain and make an impact to the business, and see the change of how the inefficient transaction that was handled through some of the old school communication methods through emails, forms, and phone can become a blockchain transaction that's going to be shared across multiple trading partners, multiple participants, and become a real-time reconciliation event that could help reduce the reconciliation efforts, reconciliation time between two bottlers. And to see an impact down the line financially is how can you increase the cash flow, how you can solve some of the cash flow issues for our trading partners, just because we're leveraging the data sharing capabilities of the blockchain and the smart contract capabilities on applying the business rules on the chain to reconcile the transactions, financial transactions. So I think this becoming more live or real-time system rather than an archaic system with the 2 months of the SLA for reconciliations. And then as you have this data and as you have these real-time reconciliations, you can now take it further for your business process automation that would make an impact to your invoicing and payments. And we're not talking about doing payments with a cryptocurrency, but I don't see this not being possible in the next 5 to 10 years, where we see more adoption in the blockchain and just companies, trading partners who trust each other through the blockchain. Now they can leverage some of the tokenization and payments through the blockchain as well.
And I know we have a few minutes here, by the way, and I feel like this conversation, we could probably talk for the next hour and have fun. And for everybody listening, for the students listening, for the general public listening, like, I think this conversation is important because for me, I see two sides. It's like, on one half, we have these finance applications of blockchain. We kind of know those work, right? Like, we have the Bitcoins or whatever. And then we have the other half of the promise, right? Which is, are there applications that will utilize decentralized databases or signature process, things of what we call trust, or either easier ways to validate? And I think companies like Kona, right, or what Coca-Cola is doing and other partners, they're in a very unique position, right? Like, the technology that these kind of companies deploy, right, gets used by many people, right? So if we want to prove blockchain, we have to understand what motivates companies like Kona, right? Like, what are the roadblocks they're seeing? Like, how can we close these gaps, right? Like, what does industry want? What do the partners want? What do the banks want, right? And we can pretend that we don't need to solve these problems, but only one way to get to the finish line, right, is to get to the finish line. So real quick, and I know we only have a few more minutes here, and we're running a little longer. I apologize. But to distill down what you just were kind of going over, and I know you're very technical. I like technical guys. Like, but just give it in layman's terms. Like, what is the killer app? Like, what is the killer app that you see? Like, that my grandma could understand? Like, what is this use case that you see that excites you the most for blockchain internally?
So I think as an end goal, or the grandma test for the blockchain applications would be if my grandma could use her cell phone and buy some Coke of the vending machine using Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency, and then as she scans the can, she could trace this can all the way to maybe a batch of raw product that was bought and the location where it was bought, and trace it all the way through the Coke supply chain, how it got into her hands. I think this would be kind of an ideal use case, or very, very great grandma test of the blockchain technology, without her knowing what it is, but getting to know all about the product and the product traceability and visibility. I think that would be kind of the killer app for the blockchain for supply chain use case. However, we need to get there, and it's a step-by-step journey that we're in.
All right, so let's talk quickly. We're going to do rapid fire now.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. Like, I assume that your email box is relatively full, that like enough blockchain companies are reaching out to you, trying to do business with you, right? So if for the platforms listening, for the integrators listening, for the multiple parties that have interest, what are you looking for? Like what would help you? Clearly it seems like you're motivated to deploy blockchain, right? But so like, what are the things that you're looking for where you're like, you see it and you're like, nah, I'm too busy. Like, this is like too many hurdles. And like in your perfect world, like what would you see from a lot of these guys?
I think what we see from a lot of these guys is partnering together, doing combined development and experimenting. We have a lot of business problems that we can bring onto the table, and we want to see universities and partners helping them understand these problems that we have, and helping to brainstorm and see how the innovative technology can be applied to solve these issues. And especially to the folks in the colleges and the universities, we can look in towards you to get your brain and innovative ideas to see how we can do how we can change our business, right? How can we improve and adopt it to the modern requirements?
So I think this is my last question before we sign off. And again, it's been very nice to talk with you. And I know we could do this probably for another hour. So I know there's, again, 4,000 students listening to this right now.
Yep.
They are stuck at home. Their schools aren't open. All of their conferences just got canceled. If they have some great idea, they're like, man, I'm listening to Andre talk. I know an application that I have that like Coke would love, or Kona. What are their outlets? Like, what do you guys do to kind of stimulate that community? How do you kind of see that partnership between, academia or startups, et cetera?
Yeah, so we see the partnerships on all of the levels. You could start with universities, research work. We work a lot with the interns, so we invite them to come and join us for summer and embrace what we do, understand the internal problems and internal processes, and provide their inputs there. And then from the startups perspective, we're also looking into, explaining you what we have, and kind of hearing from you what the solutions could be, and what are the really smart and innovative solutions we can develop using the innovative technologies.
You probably get a lot of emails from like reconciliation or like supply chain blockchain startups. Like, what emails do you like? What inspires you to open an email, or like what perks your brain like with an idea? Like, what are the things you really want to see solved?
I think what we see is a lot of fee-based solutions that probably trying to solve the same issue, the problem that they all have. They're very cookie-cutter solutions, and in order to adopt it, I think a lot of effort will be required from the enterprise perspective. What we see is how can we partner with the startups and the universities, maybe develop something that would become at the end an open source and available to everybody, so everybody can enhance and as well as use in their enterprise applications. I think this would be a successful project is if someone would like to partner with us, understand the problems, have a solution, but rather than having a fee-based approach to this, we come together and we contribute both to the project and make it available to others to use and enhance as an open source project, for example.
For all of the students listening, and I would just say to general people, like, listen to Andre, right? Like, this guy is literally sitting in the middle of like mass deployment and like blockchain, right? Like, if you build a cool startup, like one day you're gonna be sitting in a room with Andre, right? He's like, what is your product, right? Like, listen to what he's saying, right? Like, dissect these words, you know what I mean? And I know there's a lot more there. But I will let you kind of wrap it up, Andre. We'll end it here in a second. But you know, for the many universities on this call right now, and like many aspiring programmers, data scientists, CS majors, artificial intelligence, whatever, who are thinking, I have to make my career choice. Am I going to go work at like Apple, Google, whatever? But they really like blockchain. That's why they're watching this presentation. You know, if you could go back in time, like if you were a student today, like what would be your advice to them? Like, how would you think about blockchain and like, how would you approach it?
I would say if you're participating in the REIMAGINE 2020, then you probably believe in the blockchain technology. So I would say learn as much as you can from this conference. Try to meet with people, talk to them, what they do, try to get inspired by what they do and inspire them as well. And I think at the end, if you come out of this with some great ideas and can inspire others, I think we can be living in a better world.
Dude, Andre is coming with the inspiration. I knew I liked this guy. But hey, for everybody watching, really appreciate your time. I'm telling you, I was actually very excited for this interview, and hopefully everybody learned something from it. Again, I'll reiterate, I would be very surprised if the vision of blockchain was executed without multiple parties involved, right? And whether it's Coca-Cola, Kona, banks, universities, whatever, we need to understand what those touch points are, right? Like what the integration points are, right? If we keep coming to everyone with the same thing, if we're not seeing adoption, if we're not executing, it really doesn't make sense, right? So these type of conversations we want to have to really open it, right? And to make sure that anybody looking at blockchain is hearing, I have an idea, but how does that interact with a corporate partner, right? Like, what do they want to see, right? Like, how do I bring it to them with as low of friction as possible? So again, Andre, I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and I have another interview here in 5 minutes. I'm going to take like 30 seconds to grab some water in between. Any last words, and I'll let you close it out.
I would like to thank you guys for inviting Kona and myself into this conference, and I'm looking forward to participating in this. And good luck with all your effort. Really appreciate it.
You're tuned in to Reimagine 2020. Stay tuned to learn more about the state-of-the-art in blockchain education and technological development all around the world. Reimagine 2020.
Dear Journal, this is quarantine day 5. I don't know how long we're gonna make it. All our supplies are running out. All the Oreos, Coke Zeros, not here anymore. I really hope we make it out of this.
Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Toilet paper stay stocked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Toilet paper stay stocked up.
I've been glued to my phone waiting on breaking news. Group text from my friends is just a big black naked dude. Ooh, you got me, you motherfuckers just got me. I done ate up all of my rations, now I guess I gotta go shopping. How the hell did I gain 20 pounds in 3 days? Loaded up on tuna fish, forgot the mayonnaise. Ugh. I love the family time, but there's so much I can take. Now every time I take a dump, it's like a 2-hour break up in this quarantine.
We locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up.
Toilet paper stay stocked up.
Quarantine, we locked up.
Quarantine,
we locked up.
Quarantine,
we locked up.
Toilet paper stay stocked up.
Dear Journal, quarantine, day 10. The girls have been out of school now for 7 days. I swear to God, they're getting dumber. We're gonna get past this. I just don't know how much I can take. Damn, I've been bored as hell.
Up in this bitch.
And if you need a plug, I got that Purell.
Up in this bitch.
Crypto is the only point of sale.
Up in this bitch.
And if you deal with cash, you can go to hell.
You better switch. Yeah, that gamer tag is Vegas 2-0 if you want it. When I leave that house, I look like Sub-Zero buying chronic. Everybody's got a buddy with conspiracy theories, so I just practice social distancing so you can't get near me. Up in this quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Toilet paper stay stocked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Quarantine, we locked up. Toilet paper stay stocked up.
In a world full of ICO scams, vaporware, and Ponzi schemes, we wish to remember those who have passed on. Rest in peace, dear friends.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Fauci Nakamoto. We all know accidents happen. For example, you might have accidentally forgotten to convert all of your directly deposited fiat into cryptocurrency. And that's okay. I'm reminding you that when all else fails, there's always Plan B for Bitcoin.
Hi, it's Miss Crypto Cleo here, your favorite futures telling psychic. Are you unsure whether to go long, short, or market buy? Not sure which of your altcoins is going to move next? No problem. Call me at 1-800-555-MOON and Miss Crypto Cleo will tell your futures. Oh, here we have a caller now. Hello, it's Miss Crypto Cleo. How can I tell your future?
Hi, Miss Crypto Cleo. First off, I just want to say that I really love your show, and I want to know, is XRP going to 589? Thanks so much.
Greetings, fanciful leaders of this world, and wannabe authorities of all stripes. You thought that you could just print infinite money, did you? Well, the decentralized world of cryptocurrencies is on the rise. It's only a matter of time before the intricate web of blockchain architecture and distributed governance enables so much financial and existential freedom that your model becomes obsolete. Good luck. Time is running out.
Hello, you're tuned into Reimagine 2020, hosted by Mousebelt. My name is Tyler Olson. I'm the University Program Director at Mousebelt. And joining us today is Alex Sung of Set Protocol to tell us a little bit about token sets and what he thinks about the future of DeFi. And also joining us is Mousebelt University Program Assistant Director, Roshan Mirajkar.
Hey,
how is everyone doing today?
Good to be here.
Good. So, Alex, like I said, I would like you to tell us a little bit today about Set Protocol and token sets and some of the issues in DeFi that token sets strives to sort of help us wrestle with. But before that, maybe you can say a little bit about your background. What's your story? What led you into the crypto sphere?
Yeah, sure. So a little about me. I've been an industry professional here in the Bay Area for about 10 years now, just bouncing around various companies. I like to call it the Silicon Valley tour. Worked at companies like Zynga, Apple, and most recently Square. And at the end of that, I was grappling with a couple of different domains, one of them being open finance. I originally didn't really buy the Kool-Aid. I wasn't necessarily participating in all of the early ICOs. I wasn't an early buyer of Bitcoin. What really drew me to the space was really understanding the evolution of the tech stack, right? They keep talking about this idea of Web3, and having seen sort of the cloud stack evolve over the 2010s, I was really eager to learn about what the new Web3 architecture would look like. And so it was interesting, like, what does it really mean to add a public blockchain as a finality layer into whatever product you were building? And that sort of took me down, my own rabbit hole of just trying to solve new technical challenges within the space. Your common understanding of how modern applications work is you have a back end that serves some information to a front end, which then drives some kind of product value for the end user. But in the Web3 stack, as we try to present the value of self-sovereignty, you really have a much more of a triangle looking stack where you have users who are interacting directly with the finality layer through the client. And then so you can think of the back end as now serving an entirely different purpose. And this sort of blew me away. And I was like, well, there's a good opportunity to not only explore it, but seeing as how it's still so nascent, there's an opportunity to shape the way that evolves and to continue to bring some of the best practices from my previous experiences to this new tech stack and way of looking at system architecture. And so at the time, one of my co-founders, he is the one who is like, the buying Bitcoin in 2010 and whatnot, and trying to convince me over the years to buy it and look into it, and I just wasn't a believer. But we were really looking at the space and trying to see what kind of value people would be able to get from applications built on top of these layers. And since there was this whole ICO craze, we were thinking at the time that people were really just trying to maximize their exposure. So every little coin, right? They weren't doing a lot of due diligence themselves. It was really about how do I increase my surface area to all of these tokens whose white papers sound good, who are raising a ton of ICO money and whatnot. And so we're thinking, okay, well, there are obviously financial instruments in the existing financial industry that allow people to do that. And so we started off with the idea of just doing a token curation. So we would be able to basically bundle a number of these different assets as long as they conformed to the appropriate token standards. We would be able to wrap them into one tradable digital asset. So think of it like an index, right? And so we were thinking just doing simple curation. Like for instance, if you were really bullish on the idea of DEXs in the future, you would buy a set comprised of DEX tokens, right? You're thinking like Kyber, AirSwap, 0x, things like that. So, that all seemed to make sense, right? People were just rushing to buy into that space. And so we set out to build that system of smart contracts. And by the time that we had completed it, obviously it was like, the beginning of 2018, and everything just sort of froze over, right? People were realizing, hey, before a lot of these tokens are actually going to start accruing value to the holders, the teams actually need to grow out their protocols, really garner more usage, which as of then was really just like, there's a very small very small number of users who are even interested in learning MetaMask and learning how to interact with the blockchain in general. And so people started to realize that it would be a while before any of these projects would really lift off. And so what you saw was people were actually contracting their positions back into just Ethereum and Bitcoin. And a lot of it was just waiting to see what would happen in the space. And so obviously, we had to evolve because, the game was no longer just getting exposure to every little coin that was out there. And so what was interesting was at the time, back in 2018, there was also the rise of stable coins. So now, you had, this new class of assets that could be put into our index wrapper as we call it, and that would allow people to accrue value. And so we said, okay, well, how do we sort of accrue value for users just using these two assets? And so we evolved over time into what we call now a asset management protocol. So we have a token standard called the rebalancing set token, which, you know, as you would expect, behaves as a index that rebalances between different types of collateral at the choosing of a operator or a manager. And so one of the first products that we built was a rebalancing set that basically rebalances in and out of Ethereum based on the price of Ethereum. And that would do it without requiring the user to take any action. So it would behave as you would expect some kind of index product. And so, you know, from there, you can think of Set Protocol as the system of smart contracts that facilitates this asset management. And you can think of token sets as the first consumer dApp that is then built on top of this system of smart contracts. And so this is the way of us showing users, you know, how our smart contracts can be used. We're obviously dogfooding our own developer libraries, our own smart contracts, and just sort of planting those ideas in people's minds of, you know, what other possibilities are out there. And I think that's important. That's an important step for protocol creators to take these days, versus just putting out a protocol and, you know, where there's an incredible amount of complexity and saying, okay, now go build something on top of my protocol. All right, you really have to show them what the value is first to really get those creative juices flowing. And so Token Sets is our own consumer dApp that consumes our smart contracts, our developer libraries, and showcases a number of different strategies. And so using our own developer libraries, we enacted a number of strategies that we call robo-sets. And so these are sets that will trade in and out of volatile assets based on technical indicators. So some of our most popular products today include sets that trade based on the relative strength index, or the RSI, or we have ones that are traded based on moving average indicators, like the 20-day simple moving average or 26-day exponential moving average. And so that really just represents a asset that moves differently from the market, right? Because what you saw in the market, you know, for most of 2018 and 2019 was, you know, the whole market tends to move in the same direction. And so people were interested in assets that would behave differently, you know, based on your particular investment sentiment. And so we really set out to create a number of assets that mapped to as many users as possible. You know, people who were interested in doing more than just speculating, or I think as Roshan was mentioning earlier, you know, doing more than just lending, right? Lending was also a hot topic in 2018 and 2019, but now I think people are sort of opening their eyes to, you know, what other possibilities there are when you build on top of a layer like Ethereum.
Yeah, so it's almost like hang on, let's just back up a little bit. Set protocol is a protocol built on top of the Ethereum network, and that's more or less the sort of rule set, or the sort of rule pattern which helps you facilitate and sort of process certain types of automatic processes that will help you issue certain kinds of transactions. And then Token Sets is an application that is sort of built on top of that protocol, and it is a way of helping you take something like your Bitcoin, and then you can break it up into a variety of assets. Maybe you could explain that a little bit more about exactly like what are the sets that I'm getting into, and what are my options when it comes to making adjustments to like the ways in which those assets get traded in and out?
Yeah, so there's two classes of products that we have today. The first is the robo sets, and so taking a step back. A set is always a collateralized basket of digital assets. So If the set allocation is currently 50% Bitcoin and 50% Ethereum, then you know that those digital assets are locked up in a smart contract somewhere. So it's always 100% collateralized. Otherwise, it would be classified as a synthetic, where you're sort of using something else as collateral to ascribe value to that asset. But for us, one of the axioms of our system is a set that is issued is always 100% collateralized, and that collateral is locked up in a smart contract vault. Okay. So the two classes of products that we have today are robo sets and social trading sets. So with robo sets, you are buying an asset. Let's say today the composition is 100% Ethereum because you're feeling particularly bullish. But this asset will then rebalance into 100% USDC whenever a trigger condition is met, such as the price of Ethereum has crossed under the 20-day moving average. So if you subscribe to technical indicators such as 20-day moving average, you believe that the market sort of follows this trend where the 20-day moving average price dictates whether or not you should be bearish or bullish, then you would buy one of these products because that will then help you accumulate more Ethereum over time. So you can imagine you're attempting to buy low, sell high repeatedly over and over again versus just holding Ethereum and letting it speculate up and down without or if you're the kind of person who attempts to time the markets but is not sure when to do it, you could rely on these products to automate that for you. And so the rules for our robo sets are written into those particular smart contracts, and they're reinforced by a number of on-chain price oracles. So it's not like we're able to tell the sets when to rebalance. It's they follow on-chain price oracles that then when they see the signal, they say, okay, it's time to initiate a rebalance and rebalance into USDC or back into ETH. So now the second class of products that we have and the ones that we launched earlier this year were now, instead of having a smart contract decide when to rebalance, we actually put another user on the other side of that set. And so we went out and we found traders from around the world, people who are either managing their own funds or have deep trading view histories, who are then able to feed those signals to the set to decide when to rebalance. So maybe they have their own proprietary algorithm based on whatever indicators they're consuming, and they now have the ability to kick off that rebalance. So now, instead of relying on any kind of on-chain indicator, you're relying on this trader who has, essentially staked his reputation, and through a set of fixed smart contract interfaces is allowed to dictate when these sets rebalance. So, maybe they have an algorithm that consumes 20 different indicators, right? So maybe they'll trade the top a little bit faster than the 20-day moving average robo set will. But either way, you're relying on their wisdom and their expertise to decide when to rebalance. And so that really represents the evolution of our protocol, where we eventually open that up and have multiple players, right? We originally, when we launched the robo sets, we were the set creators, but now we're enabling other people to be the traders on our platform.
Yeah, and you can customize the sets that you want to
exactly
work with. Mm-hmm. But it seems like it sort of widens up the options that you have when it comes to what sort of indicators you want to pay attention to, and it's all sort of handled through smart contracts, so that once a sort of an indicator is met, then it will just kind of deploy the sort of rebalancing according to whatever you set it to. So it's Correct. A way of making algo bot trading accessible to the sort of not so technical analyst or something like that.
Exactly. And so, yeah, that really represents, I think, the future of where the space is going, where we can really start to challenge some of the existing dogma in the space of, maybe people are better off being able to trade 24/7, right? Maybe people, subscribe value to self-sovereignty and being able to get in and out of funds like this whenever they want versus having to go through an institution. These are all ideas that we're exploring by building on a public layer like Ethereum.
Right. Like, do you see that this is a promising route that our financial paradigm writ large is going to take, or do you think that it's just going to remain a sort of niche thing, maybe even for the next decade to come? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to be slow to move over. I mean, there's instruments that are being traded today on existing financial markets that just aren't replicated on Ethereum right now. That's going to take a considerable amount of time. But assuming all of those mappings do happen, there's no reason to believe that there's more value in participating in the current system, right? Like, for instance, take our traders who are trading their pools. We call those our social traders on our site. They're really able to trade 24/7, right? Versus someone who is participating in existing financial markets. Like, why is it the case that they're only able, their trading window is 5 days a week? From what, 6:30 to 1 p.m., right? Like, it should really be, it really makes the market more fluid. Now, from the user perspective, that this idea of self-sovereignty and being able to pull your funds in and out whenever you want is also extremely powerful, right? Like, when you interact with protocols like ours, you have the ability to determine when, even on a weekend, you're not waiting for any kind of transaction to necessarily process through an institution. You're just able to execute a transaction and pull your funds out. So it really is a win for everybody. And when you combine these two things together, your intuition should be able to come to the conclusion that there should be way more liquidity on a platform like this than any existing centralized exchange. So I think it's one of those things that's going to take time, but people are slowly starting to warm up to the idea, and you're starting to see that as there's more value being brought on chain, we're able to draw in more users, more traders, more market makers. And so it's a process. I think only time will tell, but I think I'm extremely confident that the value props outweigh the current challenges with technical complexity.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm extremely bullish on decentralized finance for the future, and I think that sort of this is a real opportune time to open up a lot of discussions about that, because you see a lot of funny business going on with, for example, the US dollar, right? Where you have a central entity that thinks that they can just print as much of that as they want to kind of like artificially uphold, things like the stock market or, like the US economy. But I think that those types of actions really just prolong the same thing to happen over again, and very likely in a sort of worse way. So the idea of actually getting a peer-to-peer networks off the ground where people can contribute to pools where on the back end it's being sort of dished out to people who want to take collateralized loans, and then sort of coming back to you in the form of interest, which is, of course, live interest, right? It's sort of fluctuating on the basis of actually how many people are sort of in need of the loans, and how many people are actually willing to contribute to that sort of lending pool. I think that, markets should be more responsive to real-time supply and demand principles, as opposed to just leaving it in the hands of those authorities who think that they know what's best, when really all that leads to is those people who have their hands in the cookie jar just paying themselves the most, right? So so yeah, it's really interesting to hear.
If there was a time. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a time for everything that's going on in this space to shine, it would be now, right? Yeah. And there has been a significant uptick in, I think, interest and usage of our networks. during this time, because as you said, people are very uncertain about where the US dollar is going.
Yeah. Yeah, and that just kind of circles us back around to where you said you started. You weren't really pulled in by the temptation to sort of launch your own ICO and raise a lot of money and just dish out a lot of empty promises in the form of vaporware, right? So it's nice to know that there's still some purists around who are, as it were, in it for the tech, because I think that it's people like yourself that are putting their nose to the ground and, really doubling down in hard times like the last couple months, and sort of building the types of applications like what you're doing with token sets. It's really promising to hear that there's people that are in it for the tech, because I think that that's ultimately what's going to lead the space to succeed.
I think the challenge with the space early on was that people over-indexed on the idea of self-sovereignty, and I think they wanted to build protocols around that much too early, right? Before people were willing to see what the actual value propositions were for using a platform like token sets or any of the other protocols in the space. Teams were focusing way too much too early on governance, right? And it's like, are you willing to buy into a system that has very little functionality as long as it preserves self-sovereignty? And I think a lot of teams who did ICOs, who haven't got off the ground, are starting to ask themselves like, okay, well, maybe we need to focus on creating value first, while keeping an eye on self-sovereignty and then slowly moving towards that direction. But I think if you had a traditional product background, you'd be much more interested in working with your users to see, hey, what is it that's actually going to get you to transact on Ethereum? And after 2 years, it's somewhere in the middle towards the bottom of the list, where self-sovereignty is, right? And I think it's one of those things where like people don't see the advantage of it until you have a system that is of a certain size, and you need to make those decisions like the ones that the feds are making, and then you want to be able to have access to whatever it is that your value is at the time they make those decisions, whether based on whether or not you agree with it. But at the very early stages of building anything, I think it's hard to justify focusing exclusively on that.
Right. And not to mention, the sort of difficulty of identifying a real, genuine use case, right? Because as you just mentioned, maybe it's not the case that everything we think that we need a distributed ledger for, or everything that we think that we need a blockchain for, actually needs it, right? And it's about sorting out the different use cases and like the different social practices which actually thrive and are sort of operate more efficiently with self-sovereignty in the sort of more decentralized model, and which ones actually work more efficiently when you have, maybe not one centralized sort of governor, but at least a few. And I think that that's sort of in the last 2 or 3 years has really been what has defined a lot of the projects in the space is, backing up, taking a more patient sort of peer review, critical approach to these things, asking the fundamental questions that really need to be addressed in order to build protocols from the ground up that are going to manage all the things that we want them to manage, not just now, but 50, 100 years into the future, right? And I sort of get that governance is a sort of really crucial issue in that respect. But I think that question comes side by side with a lot of other ones having to do with, as you pointed out, practicality, right?
Yeah.
So it'll definitely be interesting to see where we go from here. Well, Alex, I think that's all the time that we have right now. I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Set Protocol and what you're doing with token sets. And feel free to reach out to us if you ever want to chat more about DeFi or if you ever have any new exciting projects in the works.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Alex. Stay tuned to learn more about the state of blockchain education at major universities all around the world. REIMAGINE 2020.
Reading fortune, I just got the news. I can be a millionaire too. Check the OP, what did he do? Gas in his bag, so to go to the moon. Spent half an eighth, I got 1 million coins like the real McCoy. You know I feel that joy, cause if it goes to a buck, I won't believe my luck. And I 10 on my Lambos for me and my friends. Butterfly doors, but I'm already in dock. Trump is like whip from a squad on the block. Chanting with a hold alive. Chat rooms, we scroll at night. Bitcoin ether, been told twice. Never hold my ish like it's mold divide. Going to the stars, cause it's only right. Read the white paper, I was sold inside. Now I steal my shit coins, cause I'm overhyped. We can't take the pressure. Cashing out for you was tether. My craft ship shape as she sails through stormy weather. With pleasure, come with me on this endeavor. I will be smoking fat joints on Italian leather. Crypto fam, welcome to Lambo land. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance. Crypto fam, welcome to Lambo land. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance. This goes out to my crypto squad and the crypto gods. Blockchain clearing that fiscal clog. Rolling through town like the Frisco fog. Push the button, bought some coins. Now push the button, start my whip. Used to push my feet through the tenderloin. Now I'm pushing this spaceship. Some thought it was the bubble. Now vision doubled. Wishing they had taken the trouble. Hardware wallets, private keys, no more paper and duffels. Bank staying puzzle. Now I'm going for hikes. Have the mountain sex. My returns just hit 10,000x. Used to be humble. Now I proudly flex. Should I fly to Dubai or Saudi next? And I only cashed out part of my assets. Hodl to my last breath. Not the one to half step. It's so strange. Wealth is like a rebirth. Clawed my way out of debt. Fueled by my research. Crypto fam, welcome to Lambo land. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance. Crypto fam, welcome to Lambo land. Crypto fam, hot racing like ambulance.
Yarr, and now a lesson from the Crypto Glossary. LARPing. Live-action role-playing as a cartoon or some other animated character on crypto Twitter, usually posting all day. Yarr, can I say Yeah, they're bleeping it? Yarr, those motherfuckers.
Coming up next. Stay tuned to learn more about the state of the art in blockchain and cryptocurrency technology. Reimagine 2020.
Hi everyone, I'm Arthur from Mousebelt, and with me we have right now a very exciting guest. We have Dale from FedEx. I'll let you, Dale, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, Dale Christie, business fellow, blockchain strategist from FedEx. I'm domiciled in Memphis, Tennessee, where FedEx is headquartered.
Thank you. So Gil, I know a little bit about you. I know you you do a 60-second recap of the last 5 years of blockchain. Could you would you mind sharing that with us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's just been such a long journey. I thought I'd have a little fun and boil it down to just the kind of the essential elements. So so here we go. We're all going to get rich with Bitcoin. What's blockchain? Can I sprinkle some blockchain dust on something and it will grow 6 feet tall? 3 of us have a blockchain use case, and we're going to sign non-disclosures, and we're going to create a consortium. Then we're going to treat blockchain like the internet and immediately monetize it. Sorry, what's blockchain? We're going to wait until someone figures out blockchain, and then we'll jump on board. A smart contract is neither smart nor a contract. My business connects supply and demand. Peer-to-peer technology won't affect us. I don't mind co-opetition in the blockchain space as long as I don't have to work with other companies. So there's blockchain in 60 seconds.
Okay, that quite well put. Where would you put FedEx in that sort of timeline?
Well, we've been public for a long time, a couple of years or longer, that we think blockchain is going to completely change worldwide supply chains. We also don't think we can put a FedEx logo on it and have the world embrace it, which is a bit of an unusual approach at the enterprise level. We also don't think the consortium model will scale in the global commerce space, and then an open platform is inevitable. The global commerce space consists of tens of thousands of companies, from air cargo all the way to bicycle delivery. And contrary to the consortium model, if you hang an Apache or an MIT open source license on the door and only allow those in the room who agree to use it, you just scaled globally. We think it's going to take a while, but that's how we think it'll play itself out. We also think that regulatory agencies should mandate blockchain on the horizon so we can work together to build it. Where we can reduce friction across borders, that's delays and resources and all kinds of things, we all win.
And so if we just go a little bit back into the history lesson. So you mentioned that one of the steps was to wait until someone else figures it out. So can you elaborate a bit on that? Because I think this has been sort of also the sort of the public perception of how corporates have at some point viewed all this.
Yeah, I mean, blockchain is not yet very fast or very scalable or very mature. However, what it does really, really well. And where authenticity is critical, we believe it's going to be transformative. Increasingly in this day and age, especially in the moment we're in right now, consumers will want to have full transparency upstream for the products we buy, the food we consume. This is especially true for things like pharmaceuticals, healthcare, food, global clearance. Counterfeit goods continue to grow globally. And so the authenticity piece becomes very, very important. And to wait around on transformative technology like this is not going to be a good strategic decision from our point of view.
And you mentioned that smart contracts, not smart nor contracts. What was that? Was another point of the timeline.
Yeah, one of our lawyers actually said that, and I quote it all the time because it's perfect. Just one example of a smart contract is in e-commerce. There's a physical product. There will also be a digital version or a digital twin of that. If you think of an e-commerce customer, I'll name her Beth. She can be both a human and a machine. And these smart contract machines are the next big consumer class. And many of them will have wallets. So within a few years, there could potentially be 1,000 machines for every Beth. And the smart contract, while it may not be neither smart nor a contract, is going to be, again, transformative, because there will be, hundreds and thousands of them for individual transactions, and they'll repeat and repeat and repeat. So you better be very careful what you put in the smart contracts, because they're going to be doing all kinds of things for us. And as I said, they will also, in many cases, have a wallet.
I see. Okay, and but what was the what was the point around if a business connects by supply to demand? That how do you fit peer-to-peer into that?
Yeah, I mean, if you think of supply and demand, all kinds of businesses and industries are actually based on that. I have something, you want something, or vice versa. And in many cases, it's an algorithm that sits between the two of us and basically plays matchmaker. You need something, I have something, neither one of us knows how to reach the other, and then you've got the whole trust thing going on. Again, at its most basic, it's you and me. And in some cases, there are multiple people across, where you're located right now, where I'm located on the other side of the world. To get something between the two of us takes multiple parties, multiple middlemen scenarios. And, peer-to-peer technology means that if you and I can find each other and do so in a trusted environment like blockchain, we may not need someone or maybe multiple people sitting between the two of us. And that's why, although in the previous comment, although blockchain is not yet really very mature or fast or scalable at the enterprise level, you don't want to wait a few more years to figure it out, because somebody will, and you don't want to be late to that game. Said another way, in a blockchain world, the answer to the kind of look yourself in the mirror question, what value do you provide, may be different than your current business model. If you're used to, I can connect people and I'll always be able to connect people, you need to understand this technology, because if you and I can find each other and do so, again, in a trusted environment like blockchain, we're not going to need the traditional middlemen. And so, FedEx is in a middleman position in some of the business models and some of the things that we have. And it's not a matter of just folding your arms and saying, this won't affect me. I'll just ignore this. I think you ignore it at your own peril.
It's very interesting, and I think a lot of people would be very interested to know, like, where to understand where is you talked about the maturity of the technology. Where is the maturity of the blockchain technology in the eyes of for someone such as FedEx? Because given that, I would say that to put the significant portion of essentially the world economy through it, it needs to be a extremely reliable, right?
Well, again, it's not yet very fast or scalable or mature. So we are, we go to 220 countries and territories. We have the most robust databases and systems in the world, as do many other multinationals. It just has to be. It has to be very robust. It has to do those things. And I think part of my kind of fun history lesson was that everybody said, let's just jump to this right now. Well, even today, if you need to connect dots from a data point of view, in almost no cases is blockchain the initial answer. In most cases, there's a database that's going to do it better, quicker, more ruggedized, more stable than blockchain. So a lot of people spent a number of years kind of starting with blockchain, and that's my kind of joking reference to, can I sprinkle a little blockchain dust on this and it'll grow 6 feet tall? No, you really can't. It's really very specific technology, and we think there are some amazing use cases out there that are going to come from that point of view. And so that's this delicate balance between not yet and don't be late to the game. I mean, those are contradictory comments from that point of view, but they are both true comments, which is, you don't want to be late to the game, because peer-to-peer technology is going to be transformative. And again, if you and I can find each other in a trusted environment, we may not need some of the traditional middlemen. On the other hand, it's not yet really very mature technology, but you need to keep your fingers on the pulse of that, And that's what we are doing. And so again, we believe that where authenticity matters, things like pharmaceuticals and healthcare and medical devices and global clearance, we think that's going to be very transformative from that point of view. And 10 years from now, let's just say it this way: a 10-year-old will never probably hear the word blockchain. They may never even hear that reference because it's simply going to be a layer under everything. 20 years ago, we talked about the internet. We put the word internet in front of everything. And now we don't. It just is. Blockchain is just simply going to be this layer of this layer of authenticity underneath everything that's going to get to secure online identity and e-voting and e-passports and open commerce globally and various things like that. It's not that exciting from a use case point of view, and certainly people 10 years from now aren't going to be discussing the relative merits of it. It's just going to exist. Right now, though, these are the early days, and where that applies to you from a peer-to-peer technology or otherwise, we think it's very interesting technology, especially in global commerce and in the supply chain globally.
I see. But for something like this transformative, if you mentioned, like, where should this kind of like initiative actually come from in the case of like a large corporate such as FedEx? Like, is it sort of bottom up or top down, or how do you see it?
Well, we've publicly said we don't think we can put a FedEx logo on this technology and have the world come to it. I mean, we've been dabbling in this technology, but the broader piece is that there's kind of a fork in the road from a blockchain point of view. One fork, and again, I had a little bit of fun with that early on. One of the forks in the road is that you and I and two other people, we've got some smart people. If we could get a little money, we could build something to get a few customers. And so, we start with 4 people, and then by the time you get to 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 or 20 or even 50 or 100, it may take you, a year or two between all the legal documents to sign and all the, well, he doesn't want this or she doesn't want that or whatever the case may be. And again, in our global commerce space, in the global supply chain space, it's tens of thousands of entities, all the way from people like FedEx or UPS or DHL or others to a bicycle delivery. And so it has to work for everybody. And so the other fork in the road, if you work through the trajectory of that and say, how long will it take the world to grow from a consortia point of view? It's a relatively flat line. If you say, okay, let's hang an MIT license or an Apache open source license on the door and say, can anybody come, anybody who agrees to that can come in, it just scaled globally. And so the trajectory on that one actually goes much, much quicker to adoption. And so that's where we believe this moves forward. A lot of people are still trying to solve it through a consortium model, but ultimately our default position, I've spent a lot of years in process improvement and quality and strategy and things like that. And a lot of times you kind of take something and put it under the microscope and really crank it down and look at that at kind of a root cause level and an individual kind of unit level. But sometimes, just sometimes, it's easier to actually pull back from something. And so our default position is essentially the International Space Station. And when you pull back and look up at a 220 country territory network like we have, excuse me, there's no company, there's no FedEx, there's no industry, there's no borders. This data is all going to ultimately connect. And so while consortium models may be successful in some cases, in some industries, there's some good examples of some of those things. We actually think in the commerce, global commerce space, we think it's going to be open. And we think the sooner that everybody can kind of understand the kind of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, we think it's going to be an open, kind of a non-competitive layer. And then from that, we will all be able to do things on top of that. But we don't think we can skip that step. We don't think we can treat this like the internet and just jump to let's monetize it and let's slap our logos on it and move on.
That's very interesting to hear such a like a large corporate sort of speak about or sort of share the mindset of the openness, the necessity of it. I find that sort of very, very fascinating. But how would one, like you mentioned, 220 countries? How does one even start to sort of hypothetically even apply this sort of technology? What would it sort of would you focus on sort of like you mentioned specific sort of lines such as healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and so on, or is it country, or how does it even sort of just to sort of to help our audience kind of like have some sort of mental image?
Well, again, we think it's a technology discussion, but we don't think it's only a technology discussion. And so, that leads me to comments that I make about the C-suite. And let me loop back through there, because I think that may connect to this, which is, a lot of companies would find some single evangelist who's really kind of all in on blockchain, and they wear people out talking only about blockchain, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in any conference materials I cover, I start with quotes from our corner office, from our chairman, Fred Smith, and our chief information officer, Rob Carter, where we talk about it being, completely changing worldwide supply chains. And for blockchain to be transformative, we think it has to be bigger than us. So that's the technology discussion. But at the C-suite discussion, the C-suite is really focused on risk and opportunity. That person is an expert in their field, finance or innovation or IT or whatever the case may be. But they also broadly are responsible for risk and opportunity. And so let's go down the risk and opportunity side of things. And so rather than me trying to be that evangelist where I'm trying to convince you of the inherent goodness of this new technology that's not intuitive, and it's not, it's kind of mysterious and scary and we're not quite sure about it. Let's just put you back in your comfort zone as a C-suite, a member of the C-suite, which is as a chief financial officer, those smart contracts we talked about are going to be transformative. Because in the e-commerce example we talked about, the CFO is going to recognize a micropayment of net 0 days rather than net 30 or net 60 days. And now you just got their attention, right? That's a fundamentally different way to think of something like accounts receivable. The CIO is going to need people to code those smart contracts. They may or may not have those in place. The chief legal officer is going to need bilingual attorneys, essentially fluent in both paper contracts and smart contracts. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we better like how those contracts were coded, because they're going to be used hundreds and thousands of times. And so we're halfway around the C-suite right now, and those examples mean that, again, while blockchain is a technology discussion, it's also a strategic discussion for the C-suite, especially around things like smart contracts and peer-to-peer technology. And to finish that point, I think one way to approach this would be to charge someone in your organization, if you were a C-suite member, charge somebody in your organization with exploring blockchain within your company or your industry and report back to the C-suite. And from there, that discussion can quickly move from assessing risk and opportunity essentially into the strategic portfolio discussion. And now it's not as mysterious. Now it's just part of our business model, and where are we strong, where are our risks or our opportunities, and how can this change us, or will this change us? And we think it's one of those disrupt or be disrupted. So again, ignore this kind of technology essentially at your own peril.
And when did FedEx sort of embark on this sort of the C-suite sort of the process?
Well, I was working on the first use case at one of our operating companies several years ago in the dispute resolution side of things in the big box retail space. So it was a very simple three-party scenario. You purchased something from party B. They fulfilled it and gave it to me, and I delivered it to you. Part of the problem was that you and the other party were speaking in a purchase order language, and that party and we were speaking in a bill of lading language, and I delivered it to you on a bill of lading. And as simple as that sounds, here's how that gets twisted. You order 100 items, so you are party A from party B on a purchase order. Party B now fulfills it, but only 40 of those items can fit on a pallet on a skid to be unitized. And they put it on a pallet and they shrink wrap it, and they do that again. And now I get a bill of lading for 2 pallets of 40 each for a total of 80. And I have no idea how many you actually ordered, right? All I know is that I was given a bill of lading for 2 pallets. I delivered them to you exactly as I picked them up. I mean, you can also translate this into a lot of different examples. Food delivery, right? I don't know what you ordered. All I know is that they put it in a paper bag and they stapled it and I handed it to you. And now I don't know if there's an egg roll in there. I don't know what kind of pizza you ordered. I don't know anything about it. I simply gave it to you as it was given to me. And so, unfortunately, in our case, that was a couple of $1 million of claims and disputes. And as it turns out, between party A and party B in that example, it was north of $20 million a year, just in chargebacks and discrepancies and kind of dispute resolution types of issues. And so while that was a very simple little connection from that point of view, it proved out blockchain. Yes, it works. Yes, we can do that. And basically what it got us to was a common language. If we could boil that down to SKU or serial number rather than some what's in a box, what's on a skid, something like that, we could actually get it down to a common language. And essentially it also taught us about a secure chain of custody. And so, but the real aha moment for me from a FedEx point of view was really an example like you and I, where we are literally across the world from each other right now. And if you ship something, if you and I ship something between each other, it would take multiple parties, brokers, forwarders, brother-in-law, I know a lady, there's all kinds of people that sit between you and me in that supply and demand. At a FedEx level, 220 countries, that was my aha moment, which is if you and I can find each other and do so in a trusted environment, we may not need one or more of those middle parties. And so, leaning this back to your earlier question about how do you get it started, where do you go, what do you do, and some of those kinds of things. Actually, as I said, in some cases, thinking bigger may actually be helpful. Certainly drilling down into something and getting it down to the little details and the root cause and things like that certainly is helpful. But in a case like this, we're working with people like U.S. Customs. We've done a couple of proofs of concept with U.S. Customs. We're working on another one with them at this point in time. And we are also involved at the World Customs Organization and World Trade Organization level from that point of view. One of the things that most people probably wouldn't understand or wouldn't be aware of is that we're part of a trade association that only has 3 members, FedEx, UPS, and DHL. And where we can reduce friction across borders, we win, our customers win, and global trade also wins. And so that trade organization last year, we actually worked on a position paper together that was provided to World Customs late last year, and then I provided it. I was presented at World Trade Organization in December, presented it to them as well. And so it's not about where we compete; it's about where we can agree. And in this case, all 3 entities agree that where we can reduce friction across borders, it's a good thing for everyone. And so we have to start somewhere, but we're starting big. Again, starting one little piece at a time, we don't think scales very well globally. And certainly when we think internally about what shadow do we cast from a FedEx point of view, it's a big shadow, right? We go literally around the world. We go everywhere you can go, basically. And so we're starting big. We were part of a pilot with the U.S. FDA, Federal Drug Administration. We've done a couple of pilots with U.S. Customs, et cetera.
Wow, that's very exciting. You've also spoken about the sort of the importance of standardization in the space. Can you just elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, I think in some cases we're trying to do too much. Back to the previous point, we're trying to do too much too many little things in this space. If we think of some things that have been very transformative, very small things can be transformative. In some, I've got a slide in my conference material that simply has a lowercase a and a capital A on it, and it takes up the entire slide. There it is, the letter A. Think how transformative the letter A was, really, from that point of view. I mean, all the way from weights and measures 5,000 years ago, to screws, to telegraph networks, to electrical measurement, to railroads, the width of railroad, ties, to the alphabet. And the reason I say that is the more common, so standardized, the more common, the more people that use it, the more companies who create things around it, all of which leads to enhanced network effects and increased adoption.
And so I do know there's another topic which you or a phrase which isn't very commonly used is co-opetition. What is it, and why is it important?
You know, I started off. We tried to solve blockchain all by itself, right? We tried to figure out how to do it, and it becomes this technology discussion, and we talked about that. But once we got into kind of some higher thinking about that and realized that we aren't going to be able to do this on our own, and where does this scale? At what point does this get to scale? I kind of started referring to blockchain as a team sport. And early on, people didn't quite get that. They didn't understand that you and I, again, it's not where we compete. It's about where we can agree. And so that kind of led to the reference to co-opetition. And so if open is inevitable, and we believe that it is inevitable, then we need to change our default thinking around working together on something like this. Again, where can we agree? Not that long ago, again, now very topical in time, and you know, in a few months, literally in a few months, you know, you and I could have been kind of arguing across the back fence in our backyards about our favorite sports teams or about something else. And today we're literally working globally to help each other and others in need. And we're seeing that kind of shared purpose, or as I call it, the co-opetition, happening in real time in this moment. We think blockchain will work the same way. We believe all of us will cooperate to develop the non-competitive, open source platform on which blockchain will be based in the global commerce space. And again, if the longer we stay on the consortium model, that trajectory is a much flatter, longer trajectory. The sooner we can understand that, look, it's not about where you and I compete. We may be FedEx, UPS, DHL, or maybe two big pharmaceutical companies or something along those lines. However, two pharmaceutical companies who are fierce competitors, where can they agree? Well, they can agree that the gray market, the counterfeit market is working against them, right? Is taking business share from them. So the two of us as big pharma companies could work together to move our product into a blockchain scenario where authenticity exists, which now forces the gray market or the black market essentially to do one of two things: either rise to that same level or get out. And so while it's not intuitive and it's not currently taught in business school or on your first day of orientation, employee orientation, the fact is that two big pharma companies, or FedEx, UPS, and DHL, there are areas where we can agree, and more, I believe that we will carve out that space. What we are currently seeing in the world in this moment is that certainly people are working together who never would have thought of working together in the past, but based on whatever that kind of shared purpose is. In this case, it may be a pandemic or something related to that, but from a business point of view, there's a lot of areas where we can actually work together to the benefit of all, and that's where co-opetition comes from.
Very interesting. So I guess the average person I think views or sees essentially FedEx. Their interaction with FedEx is essentially receiving their, let's say, AirPods or a MacBook through the mail, and sort of I think very few people can actually sort of imagine what the sort of the end-to-end process is behind that. So coming back to the co-opetition, how much interaction is there, or sort of necessary cooperation is there in today's format of the world of logistics between the FedExes and the UPSs and DHLs in the world? So is this the co-opetition? Is it something like a complete day and night sort of a shift, or is it like finally there's like a common direction to work together on? Or
well, I think people would be surprised at how many what you would consider as traditional competitors, again, not where we compete, but where can we agree. So we could have conversations, or you and I as big pharma companies or others could talk about things like safety. That's not antitrust, that's not anything. And certainly we are all very sensitive to antitrust laws, and we would never go down even close to that line in the sand. But this is really not in that same vein. if we believe that blockchain is going to be a non-competitive open source platform layer, essentially layer, then I mean we can think of a phone that I have that would be an Android platform that's open, but you and I could build an app on top of that that is proprietary. And so we just don't think we can skip that step. We don't think we can, again, if we built a FedEx global blockchain solution, we don't think our competitors would pay to use it and vice versa. And that's what led us down this kind of deeper thought process, which is we actually think it's a non-competitive open source platform. And once that platform's out there, everybody will be able to contribute and do what they need to do and potentially make proprietary solutions on top of that. But there's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of that goes on. There's a lot of trade associations. And again, it's really not an antitrust discussion. Certainly we are all very sensitive to that. It really is where can we agree? And again, as I word it, where we can reduce friction across borders, we all win. And so we can't wait for US Customs or some other customs to solve this for us, nor can we solve it and expect our competitors to jump on that and pay us for that. That's why we think we need to go shoulder to shoulder on this and really kind of parse out that's antitrust, that's way on the other side of some conversation, and we're nowhere near that. However, if this is a non-competitive layer that we're working on, the sooner we can all figure that out. I mean, it's whatever even if competitors got together and built that layer and it didn't fit with the government, it wouldn't work. If we wait for the government to build it, it won't work, et cetera, et cetera. So if you eliminate all those possibilities, we think what we get to is this is a non-competitive layer that the sooner we can all sit down and start working on, the sooner we can actually scale globally to the benefit of all.
Interesting. And so I guess I'm sorry. I guess we don't have too much of your time left. But to the thousands of students listening and thinking about a career, looking at a career in blockchain. So whether they're CS majors, lawyers, or finance professionals, and so on, what would your sort of words of advice be to them?
Well, again, I think there are two paths. We've talked about the technology. Certainly, there's a technology answer to that gets you to coding of smart contracts and against basically the dev world from a blockchain point of view. Again, we think a lot of this is going to be in the open dev world. So certainly, for the technology students out there, absolutely, that's one of the highest jobs. In terms of need right now is in the blockchain development side of things. So certainly if that is your interest, then go down that path. But I'm not on the technology side of things. I'm on the business and strategy side of things. And I would tell you that for your legal students and for your business students and your supply chain students and all the rest of those kinds of things, I would go back to the C-suite discussion, which is, we think it is a technology discussion, but it's not only a technology discussion. A lot of this is about culture and change management. How are we going to work together in this new world? How can we work as a team? I mean, here we are having a global conference virtually, right? There's all kinds of things that we can do if we decide to do those things. And so be willing to learn that and be willing to think of this in a business sense as well. And where are those opportunities? I mean, again, if you and I can find each other and do so in a trusted environment across the world, this kind of technology will help us with that. So the legal students, as I said, I think the chief legal officer needs to be prepared for essentially bilingual attorneys that are fluent in both paper contracts and smart contracts. And most of the companies that I know of are not yet there. They may be talking about that or maybe aware of that, but certainly from a student point of view, those are helpful skills. But again, this is just business. You know, as I said, 10 years from now, you're not going to put the word blockchain in front of anything. This is just business. And where we can reduce friction in business processes, all kinds of opportunities exist. So if you want to do that, that will change the world. Right? I mean, this technology we think is going to get us to essentially a near real-time supply chain, where when you start mixing sensors with blockchain, all kinds of things are possible. I now know where all my product is. I can move it more quickly. I can reduce the number of handoffs I mean, if you think right now of some scenario like in the US where somebody has a flood and they're handing sandbags one to the other, you've got this whole lineup of people, I'm handing it to you, you're handing it to somebody else. That's what a lot of these business processes look like right now. And where you can think differently as a student and as a future leader in that space, where you can think differently and say, wait a second, there's a better way to do this rather than having all these people hand off all these things separately to each other, that's transformative. And you can be that person that can be transformative coming out with whatever your interest is, whether that's a supply chain background or a business background or a legal background or a dev background or some combination thereof. Or maybe a dev and lawyer and legal background or something. You're limited only to your own imagination and where this technology can take you in terms of these existing processes. But we think this is a transformative time for many of these business processes right now. So I think your timing right now as a student is fantastic.
Thank you so much for that. And there we have it. We've heard it. And so thank you so much. We have Dale Christie from FedEx. We really appreciate you for taking the time. And let's hope we can all work together on reimagining 2020. Seems like it's about
absolutely, absolutely. It's been my pleasure.
Ours as well. Thank you.
Stay tuned to learn more about the state of blockchain education at major universities all around the world. Reimagine 2020.
Hey, what's up? We're just Lucas from San Francisco, California. We're hosting a special DJ set for Reimagine 2020. We have our first guest, Paul Hemming, and later on, you guys are gonna have Nikki and Mel from Lux Entertainment. Enjoy the show.
Smoking this, drinking that, hitting it hoes.
Get the loot, get the ice, fuck the white and die. Let's get high.
Smoking this, drinking that, hitting it hoes.
I'm gonna do with you and that butt. Coming out the shower and I know you smelling good. Come and spend the night with me, you know that you should. Feeling right, he's feeling good. Let's make things understood. Wait till you see what I'm gonna do with you and that butt. Coming out the shower and I know you smelling good. Come and spend the night with me, you know that you should. Feeling right, he's feeling good. Let's make things understood.